Hey guys, how are you all? I hope you all are doing well. Today we are gonna see an amazing what-if story, but before we start, it's just a humble request that if you are new here, please subscribe because it actually motivates me a lot to post more. Also, the stories on my channel are fully written by me, so if you have any suggestions for what-if stories, please let me know below the comment section. Now without any further delay, let's start. What if Harry Potter was neglected and had powerful X-Men? He sat alone, high among the treetops, wallowing in depressing thoughts and memories. Of the past, of the present, of the future, not one did he truly enjoy. Each one made him acknowledge how few people worried of his mental state. He worried himself but not what they were thinking. And that wasn't why either, though a good reason too. It was a full moon that week. Moony was out in the forest remarking his territory. Every month that was a ritual of habits between Remus and Logan, or more precisely, Wolverine and Moony. Both men thought the forest is theirs and fought to prove that each month. To renew the rules for full moon nights their resident werewolf found a way to re-control his beast. It was mandatory safety precautions, as Remus would each time express the dangers and damage a single werewolf was capable of when out of control. A second meeting was held for the team and those branched off from the original X-Men. They were the one to run surprise drills upon the students, drills for their safety if Remus, in wolf form, was able to storm the mansion, looking for innocent victims to satisfy his bloodthirst. All the children were to run to the hangar for the Blackbird, all but those who could shift into animal and or metal form or had pretty powerful attacks to keep him at bay, while the others could escape or help arrive. These students were drilled constantly on their positions throughout the mansion and making sure every single student made it safely to the Blackbird. After all, they were the only ones who stood a slightly better chance against a rampaging werewolf. Many students had complained until they were shown a simulation in the danger room. The chosen protectors were the only ones able to fight back without much damage to themselves. Remus always said the same thing to them: a bite of a wolf is not fatal to most but venomous in its own way. To be bitten and to survive an attack would force one to become a werewolf on the next full moon. Like a vampire kiss, you would turn. A loud, echoing howl pulled his thoughts from Remus. He worried as had Remus about the openness of the forest with high walls that a werewolf could climb. That was until the mother aided her child, strengthening his magic to contain a wild creature, casting powerful barrier spells. Remus had rather storming a fortified mansion and powerful defenders than harming an innocent easily. Charles had agreed with them, asking and receiving aid from his fellow teams whenever it was needed. Hey, a gruff voice startled him, showing that his senses and magic had been distracted. He had been too deep in his thoughts. "Aren't you on duty, Logan?" Emerald eyes turned to find Logan crouched on a nearby limb, eyeing him in concern. "Yeah, smelt ya up here. Thought ya forgot," he grinned, flashing his fangs. "No, I feel closer, I suppose, to everyone." In truth, he did feel that way. Full moons seemed to have a mystical power that made one feel as if all would be well and that they could hear the whispers of lost loved ones, as if they were a part of nature, dancing beneath the bright light cascading about. To him, it really was as if those he loved and lost were speaking through Mother to him. "Darlin', I'm fine. Just thinking." He glanced away as Moony howled with grief to the moon. "You'll need to get back before Scott notices." Logan eyed his mate before nodding. "All right, darlin'. But it ain't over." Emerald eyes watched the feral mutants retreat, waiting until the wind changed courses before murmuring, "No, it isn't. It's just beginning again." He turned back to the slight wind, listening to the softly hissing tone. "Coming, soon. It comes once more. Beauty in destruction. Lovely creation. Such rivers of chaos." The two sides were warring again, one begging his safety while the other whispered dark promises, telling him he'll never be ready. Crashing of the underbrush jerked away his attention to Mother. Moony was searching for a pack that were no longer among the living, except the cub, Harry, who dwelled among the tree tops. And Moony was all that was left of Harry's family. Those truly. But why? Harry still couldn't understand it. The Weasleys and Hermione had been his faithful friends and family, standing by him through it all as he grew up from a frightful 11-year-old to a young man ready for war. They were there for the trials of the Sorcerer's Stone. The basilisk and his being a Parselmouth, the Dementors and Sirius Black and a rampaging werewolf, the Triwizard Tournament and the rising of Voldemort, Umbridge and the Ministry's need to quiet him and the assault on the Ministry. The attack on Hogwarts and Dumbledore's demise, the tireless search for Horcruxes and preparations, and finally the ending of a long bloody war for peace. How Sue. LD they have betrayed me for being a hybrid. They were always there before when I was called dark. Hermione and Ron became his friends when he thought no one would ever like him at the tender age of 11 and he was overwhelmed by his famous past. They were his friends despite his connection to a Dark Lord and being a Parselmouth, a trait of all dark wizards. They even befriended dark wizards and creatures classified by the Ministry. Hagrid was a half-giant with a love of dangerous beasts. Remus was a werewolf on full moons. Sirius was called a murderer and follower of Voldemort but was innocent. Firenze was a centaur, scrying the stars. Grop was Hagrid's brother, also a giant. Dobby was a house elf, even if he wasn't dark but classified as beneath wizards and witches. Buckbeak was a hippogriff, even if he was dark for supposedly trying to kill Malfoy. Ron was friends with Hermione who was classified as dirty blood, or a mudblood. Tonks, even if she and her mother were disowned, was a black, a family of nothing but dark wizards. But the second Harry became infected by a creature called a predator hybrid, they turned on him. So much for loyalty and friendship. He had thought they learned their lessons before. Just because someone or something was dark didn't mean it was evil or out to hurt everyone. Guess they forgot that memo. Then again, betrayals weren't the only thing roaming through his head. There was another, one that even had his beast doubting. One that worried him for future meetings he was sure would happen. One he feared the answer when the time came. Many a thought that kept him awake but not as often as this one, nor was the whisper of mother helping matters when they concerned one of his pack. Remy, his thief, the strange Cajun with his own feline tendencies. A man who sometimes shared his and Logan's bed. A master thief with an explosive touch and empathic link, as only a very rare few learned. He also had the most unique eyes since Voldemort, red on black, the perfect cat burglar. Then again, for some reason Remy reminded Harry a lot of himself, which gave him a warm feeling to have someone who understood. Speaking of the thief, Harry Maynew veered through the trees for a closer view of the mansion. If one glanced closely to the shadowy tops, they would find faint silver glowing as a predator was stalking its prey. The bright moonlight aided him as he searched for Remy. A barely there flicker of magenta gave way to the lanky form as Remy lit up a cigarette. Wonder what today is. They accepted Remy into their bed whenever he needed comfort. They accepted that Remy wanted to try for his own lifetime lover, one he thought he would find in his fellow Southerner, Rogue. That was an uneasy relationship or in Harry's mind, unhealthy. She hated it whenever Remy went out. Just to a bar or on a job. She hated it when he was free with touching or flirting with others. She broke up with him for the littlest infractions and had him crawling back. Afterwards, oh, how Harry tried to carve her pretty little smirk right off her face but he just couldn't hurt Remy. He couldn't stand to see his thief in pain whenever he even mentioned making her pay. Remy pleaded and begged with them. And like Logan who gave in to his pleas, he gave to Remy. All he could and would do was to comfort Remy whenever he came to them. He's on the outs again, darlin'. Rogue said he was flirtin' wid some gal down at Mall. But he'll be wid us tonight. Harry dropped lightly on his feet before Logan and stretching tall, pulling at the kinks of his consta. NT crouching and hunching in the tree tops. He felt the heated leers roaming over his body as he reached high above his head, looking over to see Wolverine staring from behind interested blue eyes of Logan. In return he leant forward, wrapping arms about his mate, nuzzling the rough stubble beneath Logan's chin, languidly rubbing and purring lowly, Logan. Logan groaned as he felt that delicious, soft skin of his mate rubbing against what skin he had bare. He inhaled deeply, enjoying the scent of spice and fire, sweetened just a bit with hickory. Oh, how he loved his mate's taste, addictive more than his beer and cigars. Snarling with need, he crushed their lips together, demanding entrance. Harry laughed. You get Remy. I'll get the shower started. Logan growled at the thought of another shower scene much like the one after he first claimed his mate. I'll get our pet. He began to desire and fall for the only other Southerner in their team, the untouchable Rogue. In a way, it was why he chased her. He was jealous of Logan and Harry's easy relationship. Now it seemed he had what he always wanted. Rogue was as beautiful as she was feisty. A true Southern Spitfire, but she was also skittish, fearing any sudden touching, even if it was on clothed skin. Remy, on the other hand, was addicted to a simple caress, a pleasing touch, or a soft petting. Rogue despised her parasitic touch. But Remy believed she needed to overcome that fear. So far, that had yet to happen. Their relationship was sketchy at best. Some days it seemed Rogue loved him and enjoyed their time together. Other days, she was accusing him of some fault or another, shouting angrily and breaking up with him constantly. Almost a day later he seemed to be the only one coming forth for an apology, and she was accepting him back. Every breakup he had to plea for her safety and well-being. Harry's inner beast hated to see him suffer and wished for her to pay. Despite the pain she caused him to suffer, Remy didn't want Rogue harmed. She was already beating herself for her powers. Then again, maybe it was because of his thieving and gambling past. Rogue was a rare jewel begging to be taken and owned. And like all the master thieves before him, he disliked anyone else on his playing ground. "Thinkin', pet," he blinked, keeping his startled nature beneath a cool exterior despite the smug look on Logan's face saying he already knew. "Allo, Logan, come to join Remy. Nah, sent ta retrieve ya stayin' wid us tonight." Remy softly smiled. Nothing of the overly confident Gambit, a character he played around others, was anywhere to be seen. He accepted a hand up from Logan, following the older man back to the shared quarters of the team's ferals. "Remy." He grinned as a lithe figure burrowed its way into his arms. He wrapped tighter arms about the soft body, fingers itching to snag that curling tail and scratch flickering ears. "Remy bien, cher." "No." Harry tried moving closer. "She's wrong for you. She deserves to suffer as she's tormented you." Gently, Remy pulled back Harry's head from his throat. Remy Dunn asked. "Leave Rogie be, s'il vous plaît." "Remy." "Non, cher." Remy a big boy. He take care of hisself. "Why? Leave her be. We be havin' problems, but we be fixin' dem." Harry sighed, staring up into pleading red on black eyes. "Fine, I will let it slide once more." Remy smiled his thanks as Harry slipped away. He could hear the shower running, knowing where they would soon end up. Just before he followed Logan into the private shower, he glanced out the window in time to see a familiar bulky shadow slipping back into the woods. The large blonde feral had a way of slipping the X-Men's security, even if Remy upgraded it. And to see the blonde wandering in view didn't mean good things either. Remy also knew it meant one thing. Sinister wanted his pet thief back, and in any way the good doctor could, which to Remy meant revealing the darkest secret he tried hiding. Everyone knew he was hiding because every X-Man had a secret, even if they didn't know what it was yet. "Remy." Harry had returned, emerald eyes gleaming with concern. "You all right?" Harry leaned against his back as he returned his attention to the window. "Logan's waiting but washing up at the moment." "I thought you had gone back to her. Didn't realize you were distracted." Silence reigned for a moment. "Something is wrong, isn't it?" Quote, "It was hard to lie to a feral, but even harder to an empath than a telepath." But neither was as hard to lie to as it was to lie to Harry. Harry's connection with his magic and nature made it almost impossible to lie when only he could hear a voice whispering over the winds. "Nodding for now, but something you fear." Red on black met emerald. "Why, understand. Logan too. We know you hid something, even from yourself. I promise we would never leave you out. I'm still loyal to those who betrayed me, though they must still pay for what they've done." Remy didn't put much stock in promises. He's made and broken many himself. If it be terrible dat Remy done. A comforting hand landed on his upper arm. "Not any worse than Logan's or mine. Or even what some of the X-Men have done. I can't say about them, but Logan and I won't leave. Nor would Angel or Merci." Remy loved that bed, especially the dark silk sheets and thick downy comforter. Harry had read behind him how it was his dream bed from his time with his relatives. But when the younger emerald-eyed mutant spotted Logan's frozen stature, the excitement and joy fell to worry and fear. He gave a soft mumbling apology which shook Logan from his trance. That night the two mutants had proven to Harry they had liked the changes and they could remain. Then again, Remy was glad to have even been a part of that night, pet. He blushed. This was the third time he had been caught deep in memories. Sorry. Leaning post against the far wall, heat burning in darkening blue eyes. He swallowed hard as Logan moved forward. All he could do was give up to the pleasure and comfort they offered. Outside, a lone figure crouched in the same spot Harry had vacated almost an hour before. Enhanced H. Earring caught the faint moans as the equally faint tantalizing scents drifted to the woods through the partially opened window. Golden eyes peered through the leafy foliage to the window. Soon, kitten, very soon. Glancing back at the chosen window, he watched as the two targets moved in front, catching the subtle hint of a freshly claimed kitten and Cajun. Eyeing the pleasing scene, he dialed a memorized number, unconsciously licking his lips and shifting positions. Boy shoulda kept it. Then he answered the confused tone on the other side of the phone. Got a job fair ya, Gumbo. Interested. Do sit down, Severus. Unlike Albus, I'm becoming dizzy with your pacing. Sorry Minerva. Severus Snape gracefully sat down before the headmistress. Minerva smiled gently as she recognized the barely there nervousness signs. I'm sure they're fine, Severus. The goblins never failed us before. They would have gotten Remus and Harry to safety. Dark eyes looked away, staring at nothing. And the ministry still searches the school. It won't be long, Minerva. She nodded. This had been the day every headmaster or headmistress before her waited for. The ministry had not been very happy to lose Harry so quickly. The most infamous of dark creatures was beneath their noses, resting in the blood of their savior, their defeater of Voldemort. To make matters worse, they also knew Hogwarts resident werewolf, Remus Lupin, was involved as he had disappeared the same night as Harry Potter. Nor could they make the goblins talk. All they knew was that the Potters and Black's vaults had been opened and their contents disappeared as a magical will had been involved. Several parties had been surprised at the amount of things given, especially those who truly thought they were Potter's enemy. So far, nothing was given to prove the minister's theory. For that frustration, he came back to the school, armed with oars and veritaserum. He began going through the ranks of students who knew Potter and the professors. Only two had yet to be tested as Minerva hid them in her office. The gargoyle could not be moved without her permission, despite the ministers and school board of governors having the right to pass an password. She was simply waiting for the right moment, which will be shortly. We shall win again, Albus. You do realize they will be coming here as I am neither in my rooms nor office. Minerva nodded again, sipping from her tea, offering a cup with a flick of her wrist. Do have a drink, Severus, it will calm you. You do need to relax once in a while. Minerva. She ignored tea. He heated glare and almost desperate tone. Tired eyes glanced up at a smiling Albus Dumbledore, who was gazing at Severus with caring but sad eyes. They would both miss Severus and those they sent away for safety. I do hope you are right, Albus. I do hope he will set this world to right. He deserves his life as much as Harry and Severus do, even Remus. How have your classes been? Severus raised a brow. Nothing on his face showed, but he was curious as to why she was so calm about the ministry disrupting her school and moments away from proving she was a traitor to the law. The usual. Your allies. A slow cat-got the bird smile drifted across her face, quite upset since the loss of young Harry. More upset that they received nothing from his nor serious wills. Even temperamental at the realization that several Slytherins received various properties and items instead. Then the smile died. A deep breath echoed with sadness. I just don't understand how they could possibly love Hagrid and Remus but despise innocent Harry. There was always more to the hybrid stories than what the ministry wishes one to believe. All pure-blooded families shared those stories known by the ministry. Rare few knew hidden tidbits of predator hybrids, neither their own allies nor the minister knew. To many, hybrids were simply people trying to play nice with the world around them. Not worth thinking of or fighting about. This time it was Minerva that raised a disbelieving brow, but they weren't weak, Severus. Predator hybrids never forgot their history. They reveled in the suffering and bloodshed. It was their nature, especially when it came to their children. It was the deaths of children that destroyed their lives. They rampaged when it came to defending them, even avenging them. But it was the stories before they became a clan of hybrids. It was the stories of how they became that frightened the people, a story lost through the centuries. All we know now was that to them, children were the rarest gifts to flourish in life. That they could be vicious and cruel as they drop every ounce of blood from their prey. Blood became a part of their life, part of their diet. Severus stared at the elder woman. As far as he knew, the McGonagall lines have always been light. Quite the interesting knowledge for one of light. Only 2 people know this and one is dead. But you will be the third. And hopefully safely taken away by the end of this conversation. She didn't worry for the portraits as Albus was a powerful wizard when it came to memory spells and silencing shields, especially with conversations in the headmaster's office, especially when it came to Harry Potter, especially now. There's more to me than being a McGonagall. My maiden family and married family were descendants of hybrids. At least there was a couple in our families. Any others who became animagi were automatically of feline form, as well as an easier time trying to become one. Severus blinked. That was a surprise. No wonder she didn't even partially fear Potter. She had been the only one to stay behind with Lupin, holding the boy's hands as he healed from his wounds, fighting for his life, as everyone learned what he was. He may have hated the boy, but he knew one thing throughout the years of being the boy's protector. Potter was too much a Gryffindor to fall prey to anything, even Sommet. Hing as dark as Voldemort or his new beast. The Predator hybrid. That had been proven further when he was present during the boy's most vulnerable moment, his inheritance in being a wielder. It had surprised many that Potter had remained innocent and merciful despite his upbringing with a hateful family and with Voldemort constantly sending the boy dark visions. Severus. Minerva held out a small envelope to him. The castle informed her of the minister's slow arrival as he was finishing the last few professors and prefects. Take it. He glanced through the missive, wondering, when he really zed it was one of his many resigning letters to Albus. The rumors weren't really true. He didn't want the position as defense professor. He simply wanted to leave teaching bumbling and sometimes ignorant students. What? Albus regretted caging you, Severus, despite knowing you needed to be safe from Voldemort. To him, you weren't a tame pet but an injured creature waiting for a chance to leave. He needed you here as much as Voldemort did. They needed a spy, not Albus. He really needed someone to aid Harry. She paused, catching his curiosity. There were also things he had to hide, keep hidden from anyone nosy enough to find it. He knew things many didn't, and that were why he needed you here. He knew that once the praised savior came, more and more would come poking around to discover any and all secrets. Especially of Hogwarts, in retaliation that it wasn't safe for their savior. You were here to help him and to keep the ministry looking out for you rather than the school. Albus piped up from his portrait. Quite true, my boy. His bright smile and twinkling eyes were nowhere to be seen. There was much we kept from those involved with the school, even when I was allowing myself to be chased from my position as headmaster. I tried to give young Harry a chance at life, a childhood. I kept much from him, most of which he had learned the hard way. Fawkes gave a soft try. As Minerva stood and stepped towards an almost hidden cabinet, the same cabinet Severus had seen holding Albus, pensive. But he never had seen the actual hidden drawer inside the cabinet, in which Minerva was now pulling something out. From it she carried a dark, cherry oak box, engraved with marks as if a cat was using it. With gentle care she placed it before a calm but curious Severus, turning it around so he could see the golden lock. This is what Albus took to his grave. It is what I will take to mine. But we did choose our successor. You, Severus. This can no longer remain in our care. It can't. It won't be safe. Not even if Albus' theories are proven correct. He won't be here in time to save it. But it's to be mine. What in Salazar's name do I need it for? Minerva pushed its loser to her ex-student and soon-to-be ex-professor. Take it, Severus. Take it and go to your quarters immediately. Our meeting is done. Stunned at her urging, Severus allowed Minerva to shove the box in his hands and then push him towards the fireplace. She tossed a handful of flow powder into the hearth as she allowed the gargoyle to grind open Severus Snape common room. The hearth flashed just before he was shoved through. Good luck, Severus. Be safe. Snape's common room. What's so important about this? Everything, Severus. The bloody Baron stood by several trunks, eyeing the box with a cold smile. It holds all the secrets our namesakes bore. It holds the truth of a lost heritage Hogwarts, herself, hid. It's time to return it to its owner. Hogwarts obeyed Albus and held you here. But now they both need you to fulfill one last deed. Your freedom for the truth. A ghostly hand raised and pointed to the trunks at his side. The Ministry all but destroyed your bloodline. Minor. VA has given you the box in hopes of you being as free as Potter. The goblins are helping us to help you, so you may never have to look over your shoulders again. Protect the box until it is given back to its owner. Slowly, Severus stepped closer to his trunks, confusion growing. Then it dawned as his left hand brushed across the top of one trunk, activating the portkey. Left in his stead was a dusty room, looking as if no one has ever occupied the room. But a single ghost stared about with sad eyes. Good luck, my Slytherin. Headmistress. Office. Minerva smiled sadly as she stared out the window, petting a calm phoenix. Goodbye, Severus. I wish you well. Perhaps our second successor will succeed where we failed. Perhaps our second will bring about the changes everyone has desired. He turned to the slow-stopping staircase and closed door. Yes, he will do nicely. Albus. One such as his bloodline will never let anyone walk over him. Hello, Minister Fudge, how may I help you tonight? Inwardly, she smirked. Yes, he will do nicely. Minister Fudge grinned widely, thinking he finally had them all. Thinking he had everything finally going his way, despite the loss of Potter, Lupin, and now Snape. But at least he could get one traitor. Headmistress Minerva McGonagall, you are hereby stripped of your duties and titles. You have been found guilty of high treason against the Ministry. Your fate has been sealed when you aided the traitors. Your punishment shall be delivered now. She simply smiled and waited for the spells to practically reach her while murmuring, I do hope you like the changes, Fudge. He won't play by your rules. All she left behind was an outraged minister and questions. Has she passed it on? Yes, sire. The successor will be delivering it soon. Hogwarts has given all her secrets to the child. But the school is done. There will be no successor for the headmistress but the one chosen by Fudge. Golden green eyes twinkled. But there is. There was one other my heir never saw as a betrayer. One human that stood by and against him. One who had it all and lost it all. One who believed and disbelieved. One who remained in hiding by my heir's aid. One who was ready to step out. The bloody Baron smirked. One of his favorites was coming home. Now he understood the knowing smiles of Albus Dumbledore and Minerva McGonagall when they refused to speak to the minister. Aiding the Potter boy and now Severus. The new arrival would ease some of the pain a leaving Severus dealt. And all believed him. Dead. Hiding in the shadows the second figure laughed. My heir made his fame rival the power of this land's ministry. My heir put this world in peril long before I chose him. And now that peril shall come to front, demanding its payment. Once the hiding comes to front, my heir's fruit of labor shall break free. And all shall rejoice or pay. Even those who betrayed him. I showed him favor but it is the spirits of those long dead who blessed him. They were the favored of the gods and through them my heir became who he is now. Does he know? Like my descendants, my new children, blood tells all. But he may not truly understand. Soon he will. The bloody Baron suddenly shivered, eyes facing the magnificent castle. She's gone. We've lost the headmistress. Hogwarts won't let go without a fight. Nor will us resident ghosts. We rather pass on than remain under ministry ruling. That will not happen, will it, sire? A very familiar white blonde regally slipped into view. Piercing silvery gray eyes narrowed dangerously at the Slytherin house ghost. An equally dangerous smile crossed the pale aristocratic features. Draco Malfoy had returned to the magical world, in all his carefully selected fashionable clothing and heavy cloak. Even impeccably carefully slicked back strands of long white blonde hair. My dear Slytherin prince, I see hidden life works wonders. Draco's smirk grew. Potter was right. Being alone while the world around you has no idea or plays ignorant allows one time to plan. And planning is what Slytherins do best. And what Malfoys do even better. He glanced towards the castle in time to see several Aurors carrying a stretcher with the still body of Minerva McGonagall. I believe the headmistress smiled and twinkled like Dumbledore would have done if he wasn't suffering as they carried out her sentence. Yes, child. She set free the untamed spirit and released a centuries-old secret to its owner, a secret forged before time began. It is this secret every minister before Fudge wanted to see, to prove what they believed. Draco nodded once, of course. Who else would hide such a treasure but the paragons of light? And now that it's truly safe, so I may not have to worry about it or looking over my shoulder. This means it's time for me to implement the plans long in the making. The Baron tipped his head, lovely. And those of betrayal. A malicious smirk gleamed into Ho's silvery eyes, sending shivers down their backs. Those are plans I began in Potter's stead once I learned he vanished from this world. I was his rival and therefore knew him better than his so-called best friends. Ah, the ancient promise. Keep your friends close but your enemies closer. Been so long since many have lived by the ancient traditions. I do believe I chose my heir well. Quite the vindictive soul, my heir possesses, and he did perfectly in choosing a successor to lead in a new world. M. Malfoy. Impossible. The reports were filed. You were missing then declared dead. I compensated your vaults and properties to those in need. Draco enjoyed the outrage and stuttering as an elegant brow rose. Really? How? Unfortunate. Fudge straightened, seemingly puffing up with importance. Oh, yes, this will be fun. But how is it possible to drain everything belonging to me when you had no body verification? How did the goblins allow this when they knew I was alive and well, even filed that report themselves that I was safe at the ministry? Curious, is it not? What are you talking about, Malfoy? I received no such report. You may file new ones after I reinstate a new head of Hogwarts. Silvery eyes glittered dangerously as Draco saw the proud and haughty sneer from his favorite targets after Potter. Let me guess. The traitorous Mudblood and her pathetic pet, Weasel. Fudge turned red as he tried to outdo the scion of the Malfoy line. Now see here, Malfoy, Mrs. Weasley has done quite enough to aid in the war with her intellect, and Ronald Weasley aided with his superior battle strategies. Of course they're perfect. One will be the new head of Slytherin and Potions Master while the other will be head of Hogwarts. Oh, is that so? He was enjoying this. It is done. Tomorrow the announcements will be heard. Draco chuckled. Wrong, Minister. You've obviously forgotten the oldest tradition that built this world. You obviously forgotten a time when honor, loyalty, and bloodshed ruled. Haven't you, Cornelius? I'm willing to bet that you murdered McGonagall to keep control. I'm willing to go further and say you've planned this since Dumbledore's death. You hoped to be the so-called hero by finding the lost treasure of ancient. A box of secrets that could be the downfall of your precious ministry. He had been planning too, since the incident on the Hogwarts train when a small group of Gryffindors had hexed him. What you getting at, Malfoy? Draco eyed Weasley before sniffing, turning his attention back to Fudge. Am I correct, Minister? Fudge held his head high, eyes flashing with panic. If you insist on spreading lies, Mr. Malfoy, you will be tried for treason. A mocking laugh spilled from Draco. Treason. You tried McGonagall for treason and carried out the sentence while two of her students stand here cheering that decision. He ignored the cries of, she was a traitor. You forget something. Two people, who are now dead, did not forget. They made sure Potter learned something every pureblood knew. He eyed Weasley. Well, every pureblood who thrive on the ancient knowledge of our forefathers. He inherited more than just becoming the head of the Potter and Black line. Even more than becoming a wielder. Lily Potter and Sirius Black were determined to be heard after death, even James Potter, in hopes of their son becoming the man they wished they raised. Fudge swallowed thickly, fear slowly creeping in more than his eyes. I have no knowledge of what you speak. No one could understand the confusion you just tossed out. Besides, there is no such knowledge of forefathers. The ministry would be the first to know, especially the position as minister. Interesting. Potter was right. You were too corrupted to be any good for the future. Perhaps it was wise to begin a new era. Minister. What on earth are you talking about, Malfoy? I've read all the ancient laws, especially those dealing with the ministry. The minister is in his rights for treason. After all, we know you were the one to murder the headmaster. Granger seemed a little too smug with her knowledge. Oh, but there is one forgotten law all should know, Granger. He locked eyes with a fearful minister. More of a curse, a dark promise, sealed by blood, held over the heads of powerful bloodlines. A curse more than a signed law. A curse created centuries before time began. A curse that struck many a time. Several powerful families fell hard. Draco Malicious grinned in Weasley's direction, thrilling at the pale face and fearing blue eyes. Isn't that right, Weasel? Hermione turned to her husband. Confusion coloring her voice. Ron. What is he on about? Ron swallowed, voice thick with regret, fear and despair. The curse of consorts. Blood for blood. Gasps fell as Fudge tried to save face. There is no such curse. The unspeakable have already looked into that. Wrong, Fudge. It's a blood promise that takes form when dues aren't made. The world but select few have betrayed a chosen consort. An heir chosen by a dark creature. Then there was a blood consort you forced into hiding to preserve his life while his master tried to convince his kind to join the light. The same consort you continuously tried to ruin and harm through his years of school despite what he had done, especially that 1 year on the train. That is what the magical world has forgotten. Ron sighed, willing to accept what fate decided this time. It was true. The Slytherins always fought back as hard as the Gryffindors. But they did ambush Malfoy on the train ride home, cursing him quite good at the time and leaving him to suffer those curses after he tried to insult them. They never did go back to see if he was alright or if anyone found him, nor did they care if there were any lingering effects the next year. What is the promise demand? Ron, quote, he understands, Granger. You all betrayed Harry Potter, chosen heir of a predator hybrid. You all turned on me, chosen blood consort of Master Vampire Lord Daxus. You chased us both out and now I repay those betrayals tonight actually. You will welcome a new era as the old is washed away with the blood of any and every bloodline demanded. Draco smirked as he faced a fearful Fudge, who was trying to edge away since Hogwarts wards disallowed apparition and portkeying on her grounds. Starting with you, Minister Cornelius Fudge. Onyx's eyes peered about cautiously. It seemed the portkey landed him deep within the dark forest. And this is their version of freedom by allowing me to hide in the forest. With a heavy sigh and deadly glare to the box he still held, Severus flourished his wand to his left hand, spelling his trunks to follow. Now to head back to my quarters. As he stalked back to the castle, his eyes began to automatically cataloging differences of the dark forest and this one. This isn't the dark forest. He had trekked through that forest more times than he dared count to visit his so-called moss chair during the war to know every inch of the woods, especially as he used the forest for his potions ingredients and to aid the greenhouses. Nor was he able to sense the magical creatures. Aruau. He froze at that sound. That howl was very familiar. Werewolf. Quickly, he shrunk his trunks and flicked his wand to summon the weapon he last used in the war, a sword tailored to him. He would rather fight for his safety. Even as his feet hurried along a trodden path, rustling of leaves caused him to freeze. He tensed even more when a figure dropped from above before he caught sight of familiar emerald green eyes. Potter. Snape. Ears flickered at the familiar voice, head tilting in curiosity. Well, you've grown finally, Potter. Severus eyed the twitching tail and ears, tension bleeding away. He and the Potter boy may have their differences, but they were able to aid each other's back in battle. You've evolved forms, I see. He eased forward, curiosity plaguing him. A hand reached out as the sword vanished. As a child, he had always wanted to meet such a creature. Harry blinked. This was the man very rare few met, a man beneath the cold exterior. This was Severus, someone who was curious about the world around him as he looked at it in a scientific view. This was a man who was curious on what reactions he would receive through various experiments, the tossing together of ingredients, of learning new things. But Harry was intrigued by the pale hand reaching out for him, holding still as cool fingers stroked over his face, easing up to furred ears, caressing them. He purred at the touch as he held very still until a rough hand jerked him back, snicked. Don't think so, bub. Sheik immediately moved forward to comfort his mate, protecting his fearful human. Mine. He pressed close, exposing his throat. Yours. But he had to keep his human's professor safe. He's Pack. My Pack. Silver eyes watched as Logan backed down, understanding the meaning of Pack when Mooney's howl came closer. He fears the wolf, Sheik. Always has since Sirius tricked him in school as a child. Do we protect him? We've claimed him as pack before their ears. Remus will understand that we chose Severus over him. Severus can help Remus, can help Moony. Then we protect our Dark One. Go. We will keep Moony company. He turned about and raced to meet Moony head on, knowing Logan would protect an innocent man from a rampaging werewolf, one who scented human in its forest. In mid-leap, Hybrid met Werewolf, who tore from the underbrush. Several surprised cries came from its pack as they rushed from the scene, dragging with them a stunned Severus. Snarls burst free as the two predators battled. Cyclops eyed the fighting predators before taking charge. Get to the perimeter, now. Jean, get the students to safety and prepare. Remus scented an intruder who was part of Harry's pack. He and Harry are fighting. Harry wishes to protect the intruder. Severus eyed the man dragging him along. He glanced back in time to see Potter getting flung backwards and Moony glancing their way. He hoped Potter used what little brains he had to barricade the wolf in this forest. He dug in, his heels just as they cleared the tree line, hearing the crashing wolf behind them, whipping out his wand. I suggest getting ready. He threw up a shield just as the wolf leapt at them, bouncing off. The hybrid came from the left, plowing into a stunned wolf, slashing wildly, gaining the attention of an unhappy werewolf. Severus threw up a stronger barrier. If you can, barricade the tree line. There isn't much you can do but keep from interfering. Never get in the way of a hybrid and its prey. To do so means death. Remus isn't prey. Cyclops eyed the gentleman turned rampaging wolf as T. He two predators fought with teeth and claws. He didn't want the man to be hurt. Severus sneered. Potter couldn't hurt Lupin if he tried. Lupin's beast is simply a dangerous threat to Potter, which is why he is battling to force the wolf into submission. I am a part of the pack because I can aid a werewolf on each full moon. Cyclops eyed the intruder. We will protect the perimeter as we agreed. You will come with me to the mansion until it is safe. Severus lifted a brow when the shorter man with metal claws roughly growled, Ain't leavin' ya here, bub. Logan murmured under his breath, unaware of the spy's trained senses. Curious as to why you're here. Severus nodded, as am I. He followed after glancing back at a struggling hybrid, as am I. Predator battle. Sheik lay stunned from a vicious swipe as his body tried healing every wound as Silver Eyes watched the slow approaching prowl of a smug werewolf. Ah, but there is control, my heir. He blinked as the strangest voice gentle hissed to him. So different from Mother's. His hissing didn't deter a determined werewolf. Who are you? You know me, my heir. Blood knows but soon you will understand. The truth comes. You will learn of a heritage long gone. A blood oath long faded, a line long evolved. Moony stood over his fallen prey, teeth ready to tear a vulnerable throat. But just as sharp canines dug in, his prey suddenly stead and dug claws deep in its soft underbelly. He howled, twisting away himself, tasting droplets of warm blood on its teeth and smelling its own spilt liquid. Amber eyes glowered as he twisted to find that half-breed, to find its prey. He wanted another shot at that throat, to prove his dominance and slake his bloodthirst. Control has a way. It was our fate, our destiny. We held the key. Blood held the key. The hybrid fought for its control, its own bloodthirst driving forward. Eyes flared with power and hunger as it dove low for the legs, teeth and claw digging into one limb, jerking its prey to the ground. It bounced back as the wolf howled, lashing out with power, forcing its opponent to remain upon the ground. Soon Silver Eyes bled to emerald as Harry crouched next to a raging wolf. Remus, Severus is here. He can finally help you next month. You'll finally have control. For me, it means Malfoy kept his promise. And what does my godson have to do with you, Potter? I kept him safe when he failed his mission. Harry glanced up to see his ex-professor towering over him. I see they couldn't hold you. Only Dumbledore had the ability, and possibly Voldemort, to force one Severus Snape to remain where he was told. Draco Malfoy was a true Malfoy. He failed once and knew his death was soon. Yes, this he knew, which was why he was willing to flee. But he wasn't going to remain passive. He knew what he wanted as I struggled to fulfill a prophecy. Severus narrowed his eyes. As I said, Potter, unless you really are deaf in the ears, boy, what does my godson have to do with you? Everything. Harry stood, absently brushing away dirt and leaves. We'll head inside, Professor. Remus will be safe then, as the team will be watching the perimeter, especially as dawn will be shortly. Exactly how will that accomplish the obedience of a rampaging beast, especially a werewolf? Harry smiled sadly. A beast, as you put it, who loves his pack can be obedient. Magic can make anyone see and believe what isn't there. A safeguard since. He paused, swallowing strong emotions. Severus understood what wasn't spoken. The wolf has yet to follow reason. Yes, there are times it still believes its pack runs free in these woods. I fear for its mental state, but it was easier making it believe its pack was still living, before the betrayals, before the deaths, before the changes. Remus was reluctant but felt it was the only real barrier to protect innocent children should the wolf grow tired of searching and turn to the hunt. Everything that could go wrong would when dealing with the boy who lived. Severus knew this from experience, but he was satisfied that someone else was making sure everyone was safe, even when Potter would sacrifice his life to help. Harry gave a bitter smile. Yeah. The great Harry Potter. One day Savoir and the next day betrayer. Never in between. Severus eyed the struggling werewolf, then to the box in his hand, and finally an unhappy Potter. Potter. Magic won't hold him for long. Emerald eyes peered at him, knowing Severus would never apologize for his words. In a way it was comforting, as Harry held onto Snape's sadistic humor. It was what kept him grounded, and he could always depend on the cold man to always tell him the truth, even if he didn't want to hear it or believe it. No, I suppose not. Then he eyed the strange box, a box calling out to him. It felt like home. It felt like something he should already know. Sheik pounced forward to look himself, curious. What is that? It was offered to him as Severus understood the silent conclusions Potter had made. Yours. Who exactly are you? Familiar brush of someone against his mental shields, shoving them out harshly. Who's asking? Suddenly, Harry piped up, growling low, causing Severus to eye him with something akin to confusion. Keep the telepath under control. She relies too much on her need to know every detail of one's mind. Scott froze at the snarl, turning to find Jean staring with guilt on her face and shock in her eyes. A part of him crowed with delight. He had always felt the same way. Jean did have a need to tramp through anyone's mind, hoping to learn every detail. Only a few were safe from her. He was one. Then again, the professor had helped him with his shields, and Jean strengthens them by instinct when she formed a link with him. Rogue and Wolverine were another. One had too many personalities for a telepath to follow, and the other couldn't tell truth from fiction. Charles and Betsy were others, as both were pretty powerful telepaths in their own right. Then again, no one had been able to penetrate Gambit's shields, in which he was glad. But another part of him worried for her safety. He still loved Jean, trying to protect her in any way he could. Even if it meant defending her nosy use of telepathy. Forgive her. She tries to aid us with knowing enemy from ally. And one day she will create an enemy from an ally. Say. Varys smirked at Potter's choice of words. The boy had thought the same of him. Then again he had thought the same of Potter. Scott softly sighed, giving Jean a dark look before returning to the topic at hand. Can we return to our unexpected guest? Severus Snape. Bobby was the first to get the clue, eyeing the dark man with familiar confusion. Isn't he the one you had in simulations? The one Sheik kept saying wouldn't bow. This time it was Severus who fixed someone with a dark glare. Potter knew how he hated serving two masters when all he wanted was freedom from his youthful mistake. Potter. The boy flinched at the same time, looking down like a kicked puppy. He sighed. I trained the boy during our war against the darkest of man. That was all he was willing to share of his past with strangers. Remus went a step further, telling them of a young man with a dream of being a master, inventing the needed potions during the war, especially for a creature Remus became during the full moons. Now that he thought about it, this Severus was reminding him more of Hank, their resident scientist and doctor. I believe we have an empty room on one of the upper floors. I'm also sure Hank can spare space in his lab for you. Excited, Harry took those words as a dismissal. He would take Severus down to the lower levels to inspect Hank's lab later. For now he was dragging an amused ex-professor through the elaborate mansion to his old bedroom. This was mine. He showed his companion how to enter the room and sat down on the empty bed as Severus sneered before swiftly altering the room to his liking. I was worried about you and Professor McGonagall. Why didn't she come along? Severus took one look into concerned green eyes and knew this was about to break the boy's heart. Minerva had been as close to Potter as her profession would allow. And he knew, as well as saw, how protective Potter was of his tiny, dysfunctional, and odd family, adopting those as he saw fit. She's not coming, Potter. Harry swallowed. He didn't like that look nor tone, but he had to know, quietly asking, what happened? Minerva. He would miss their playful heated rivalry of their two houses. She stayed behind to face the minister. No. He moved closer to the stunned young man. She knew, Potter, just as had Dumbledore. They both knew and accepted their death. You couldn't stop them if you tried. Tears flooded Emerald eyes, his voice trembling. He killed her. Why? Harry fought not to cry. Maybe I shouldn't have left. Severus froze as he ended up with a lapful of an emotional hybrid. Sighing in relief when a familiar face suddenly slipped inside, Lupin. Remus took one look and knew, she's dead. Yes, high treason, I believe. She wasn't going to speak a word to them. She was as stubborn as Albus. But I was given this before her death. He held out the box for anyone to grab it. Here he got a curious look, alive, last I checked. What does my godson have to do with this? Harry swallowed. He knew Severus was about to hate what he would say shortly. Did you know he was a blood consort? Severus tensed. No one was to know that. It was a family secret shared only by 4 people. He was one of the 4. How do you know this, Potter? And he told you. A Gryffindor. Just like that. Severus didn't want to believe his godson gave up his secrets that easily. Harry shook his head, knowing he was about to get into trouble. Not right away. I sort of told him what he wanted to know and he answered me in return. Remus stared at his cub, stunned by the revelation. You told him the Order's secrets, didn't you, cub? Moony was showing more in his growl. How? Why? No one was ready to trust him. Harry flinched, looking away. Because I had to try. I knew. That year that Draco was hiding something but couldn't prove what. It was a risk I was willing to take. No one else cared that perhaps the Slytherins weren't all ready to bow to Voldemort. Severus began pondering what he just heard. Too many things were adding up. Let me guess, Potter. You learned of blood consorts, in return for whatever Draco may have wanted. You also learned of a certain UNWR. It-in-law held dear to such masters as Draco's. And you learned all of this before Albus' death. Severus. He turned to a worried werewolf. My godson and I went into hiding after I fulfilled my duty to the unbreakable vow as Albus demanded. While in hiding, Draco received a visit from his master, Lord Daxus. Practically days before the final battle. Then Potter becomes a hybrid and Draco suddenly comes out of hiding. Onyx eyes stared down at a fidgeting Harry. What did you two do, Potter? Harry hung his head as he began explaining the tedious plan he and Draco had come up with. At the time Harry was tired of fighting. Tired of being hurt, and just plain tired. Draco was vengeful to the last and that was why Harry agreed. A new era. Draco had raged when Dumbledore questioned him on his duty to kill. I know he could have if he desired, but Dumbledore was right. Draco didn't need to prove himself or ruin his life for one little deed given by Voldemort. Before that, Draco knew I was tired. I didn't want to fight. I just wanted the chance to live without worry. A warm hand carefully brushed against his throat before lifting his chin, forcing him to stare into concerned amber eyes. Cub. He smiled weakly. Draco told me of the so-called myths not found in most books, well, ones not hidden among the elite pureblood families. He told me about a law called the Curse of Consorts. Blood for blood law. He swore he would help me, but I had to understand that his master would demand I pay. And I guess I did, as I was betrayed and chased from the world I just saved. We would all pay. Every pureblood was to know you couldn't harm nor destroy a chosen consort. And it had to be true if I'm here. You're straying, Potter. What did I leave behind? I told you. A new era. Draco isn't as dark as he is light. He is gray. He's a Malfoy and well bred for politics. He'll regain everything Lucius may have lost as a Death Eater. He'll take over the ministry if not abolish it all. Our Fudge's treatment of his master's kind and those like him. It will either be a competent ministry or a well-bred tyrant. And Hogwarts. Both elder wizards really didn't want to think of the one place Ace they called home and safety would be destroyed. He'll fix it all. He had ideas. Both men stared at the innocently smiling Harry Potter. Both men knew Harry didn't really have a true inkling of he had unleashed on the magical world, but they believed Harry had an idea that the world was about to get its rich dessert for all it had done to those they believed weaker or unworthy. And Severus knew a Slytherin would be downright nasty when it came to changing the world onto its head. Draco was no exception. Trade one Dark Lord for another. Harry tried to glare. That wasn't what he thought. To him, Draco would be the new blood the magical world desperately needed before it collapsed. The blonde rival knew how worthy Muggleborn and half-bloods could be if given the right positions or a chance. Especially if one was as powerful and intellectual as Hermione was. She would have been the greatest gift for a pureblood family, giving them new blood and possibly stronger children in the bloodline. But Remus beat him to the punch. After all, Moony was howling in delight at the thought of his kind being free from their chains. Remus enjoyed knowing that Harry had innocently and naively pulled the ultimate stunt. This would have made James and Sirius day, even Lily. Lily would have been very proud that her son was thinking of everyone as he changed the world. I wish I could have seen their faces when they learn of their ultimate mistake. Your parents would have been very proud, Harry, even Sirius. Yes, this would have been the best prank ever, but Lily would be ecstatic just to know you were doing everything to help those in need, even if it meant giving the world over to a powerful tyrant. The magical world needs a new leader to usher in a new era, making them stronger than ever. But I have to wonder. You paid your price, what of the others? Harry looked away, tears forming once again, allowing the two men to curl him against their warm embrace. I'll miss them. They were the only family I had beside you and Sirius, Remus. I loved and trusted them, but they hurt me more times than I could count. I truly thought they would stand by my side as promised. I can only hope that Hermione and Ron, even the Weasleys, won't suffer much. Severus said nothing as he shared a knowing look with Remus over the tousled dark head. Both wizards knew that wasn't to be. Draco would make both Gryffindors pay harshly for every little thing they had done to humiliate him and his family. But they wouldn't say otherwise, allowing Harry to believe his friends would still be okay despite their betrayal and hateful remarks before Harry had vanished. My lord. A slim figure knelt before his pale master, eyes lowered respectfully as he waited to be acknowledged. My consort. A.C. Old hand gently traced the blonde's face. So lovely. Draco shuddered on his knees as the drawing, honey-coated tone slipped through their bond in his head, knowing who his master searched for, and they turned on him once more. Potter fled with the last of his family. Lord Daxus smirked. He liked the stubborn emerald-eyed youth. His pet told stories of their heated rivalry. But as enjoyable as those stories were, he could not forgive the pain and humiliation the Potter boy had dealt to his pet. Then again, the greatest payment had been paid, with a little assistance on his part. He knew how the magical world feared the father of the vampire bloodline, even if they couldn't prove it. It was he Daxus had gone to, in order to punish Potter without ending the last heir's life of the Potter line. Be glad he left, pet. I would not have spared him. With him gone, I have fulfilled my payment. His loss here in the Potter line will no longer have an heir to carry on the name here. Those chilly words bore more shivers down Draco's spine, but he refused to move without permission. But a part of him was glad Potter wasn't around any longer. He enjoyed finding someone unwilling to bend to his every whim. Someone his equal in almost every way. My lord. Ron swallowed, heart pounding in fear, breath quickening, had been since the unexpected arrival of the oldest vampire lord. Oh, sure, a part of him rejoiced seeing the high and mighty Draco Malfoy submitting to another. He enjoyed knowing the Slytherin had been knocked down from his pedestal, but he refrained from that joy, especially with the thought of what Malfoy could do to his wife, just because of an ancient law. Hermione. Shivering, he held his wife tightly to his side, inhaling her sweet perfume, trying to memorize her in every sense. Don't worry, my boy. Your time will come shortly. First, Cornelius Fudge, you dared to harm my pet. You dared to insult him. You dared to have him destroyed just to steal his monetary assets and use that value to award betrayers. Fudge immediately tried to prove who was really in charge, shouting, "Aurors, arrest them. I will not have a dark creature running about or a murderous Death Eater. They will be executed for their crimes." Draco yelped in pain as two Aurors roughly grabbed him by the arms and yanked him to his feet, not caring they were grabbing too hard and bruising him. He worried for a split second until he felt his master's rage. He fell back to the hard ground, landing awkwardly on his left wrist. Despite the throbbing pain, he turned to watch in triumph as Daxus tore through the two Aurors who dared to hurt him. He whimpered when bloody warm hands eased him to his feet, long fingers soothing the pain from his wrist as a cloud of pleasure ebbed his mental thought. He gave up all his mental shields to feel close to his master, swaying into the hard lean body as Daxus turned to a horrified Fudge. "My pet told you the rule. You knew the unwritten laws that did this world, and yet you willfully ignore such things. For that, you have not only lost your precious ministry but your life as well." Fudge immediately tried to apparate, forgetting in that moment that Hogwarts wouldn't allow it, as well as that he had an emergency portkey upon his person to the ministry. When he couldn't vanish, he tried to run when a single hand, not clutching the shivering blonde, grasped his throat tightly. "And no, as much as I love to spill your blood, I won't." Daxus waited until Fudge relaxed in his grip, knowing the little man thought he would be safe. Then he ferally smirked, "Ruining that hope, but I granted that right to another. He wishes to repay your kindness to his heir." Blue eyes focused behind the two horrified frozen couple. Fudge tried to follow the gaze when a figure casually slipped around to his view. There before them stood the centuries-old and very first predator hybrid, grinning ferally with a sadistic gleam in those eyes. He felt his pet suddenly quiver with fear at the sight. Pet, do not fear. This is Potter's sire and the true lord of hybrids. My people's father. The werewolves' father." Fudge found himself thrown to the ground before the one hybrid the ministry had never been able to capture. He scrambled backwards, and then once some space had been revealed, he turned to flee, never looking back in fear. No, no, no. I'm the minister. This shouldn't be happening. Must make it to the wards." The hybrid inhaled deeply, scenting Fudge's fear. He threw Daxus an amused smirk. "The hunt begins once more." With those words, he raced after the man as a tingle of magic raced across his skin. "No matter where your prey heads, you will be able to find him." Hermione finally snapped from her trance. "Ron. The minister. We have to help." Ron flushed as Daxus eyed his angered wife. He swallowed as she shrieked for them to help. He really didn't like the smug smile on Malfoy's face, especially as the blonde languidly stretched from his sudden shivering glazed trance. Hermione." Draco quickly cut off his redhead rival. "You can't help, Granger." Anger and disgust flared as she questioned the smug blonde. "What makes you so sure, Malfoy?" "He is the minister. We won't allow a traitor or a dark creature ruin what peace we've gained." Daxus snatched her wrist just as she raised her left hand to slap his pet, almost crushing the delicate bones. Eyes laughing at her whimper. Child. We've yet to decide your fate." She fought. She struggled. "Ronald Weasley, help me." Ron flinched as Draco smirked wider. "Your husband understands, Granger." "Weasley knows." Daxus smiled as the girl stopped fighting, turning burning brown eyes to the cowering boy. "You both shamed my consort. Humiliated him. You should know the law." Hermione glared, searching her vast knowledge. She knew of no such law and knew Malfoy had no such marks to even make him a so-called consort. "He bears no mark." She huffed, eyes glinting. With pride that she caught them in a lie, not bothering to listen when her husband moaned. How Malfoy smirked when they started the argument of him being in cahoots with the Dark Lord, never agreeing nor denying. "Very good," purred Daxus. "The boy's quite smart, pet. He decided to allow this Weasley life. Perhaps my pet can use him. I shall spare, to my pet's desire." Ron whimpered at the implied suggestion. "But you," Daxus eyes the renewed struggles of Hermione, "you shall pay in blood." "Ron." She tried once more to plead for her husband's aid but he simply stood by, tears falling from his eyes. "I'm sorry, Hermione." His whispered apology barely touched her ears as Daxus yanked his chosen victim into his deadly embrace. Inhaling her sweet scent, he descended swiftly upon the pulse point of her throat. Sharp fangs easily tore through skin and veins, allowing her life's blood to pump forth with each strong suck. His sensitive hearing picked up Ron's sobbing. Draco raised his head high, watching his master feed from someone other than him in the years he was bonded to the vampire lord. He was glad to know that his master had already descended upon the ministry before arriving at the school. Draco had used every contact to be sure no one would know anything was amiss until now. He glanced about, ignoring Weasley's soft crying. This world would fall into the hands of a Malfoy. Oh, how the Dark Lord would have raged if he still breathed. Draco would enjoy implanting his ideas. Time to play. Thump. Daxus dropped the lifeless body, casually wiping away what spilt blood. OD clung to his lips as he agreed with his pet's thoughts. Time to play, my pet. Harry sighed. He was lonely and bored. Emerald eyes peered down the shadowy driveway. Remy had gone out on a job. He worried for his thief. But knew Remy lived for the elation of a dangerous heist. A master thief at their best. Hey, he glanced up to see a nervous Warren. Sit, please. He waited until the elusive on wings brushed against his arm and shoulder before asking, have you tried it out yet? Warren was nervous, but Harry understood. The blue-skinned mutant was still wary of his illusion skin and wings. He was still afraid it would fail him. Much like the metal bracelet he and Beast would use to project the image of being normal, as long as they were careful who they brushed up against. Betsy reserved dinner tomorrow night. It will work. We refuse to betray our pack. Our pack is our life. Warren smiled. So I am learning. Coming, my child. It comes. Harry listened to the soft hissing of Mother. Something bad was coming and coming quickly. Gnawing gently on his lower lip, he turned to a concerned Warren. Look after Remy. Warren blinked at the request. At one time he would have said no. That he and the Cajun never could get along. Everyone knew that the thief was hiding something huge. But since Harry's arrival, he began looking at Remy in a different light. He could only hope this secret Remy hid wouldn't hurt them in the long run. I will. Harry smiled brightly. He knew that Warren and Remy had problems before, but they were trying to relate to each other, trying to get along. But hearing Mother whispering about something dangerous caused him to realize Remy was the heart of the coming storm. Those around him would suffer. This was becoming the same plight he suffered. He was the savior placed on a pedestal and constantly falling. With one huge storm, he learned who his friends were and who weren't. He could only pray that his pack would be safe. No more betrayals, Mother. Please. Thank you. Sinister's lair. How does it go? Almost ready. We shall soon be ready to implement the next step. You shall have your reward shortly. Your pet thief, correct? Red eyes narrowed dangerously. Do not assume. My illusionist. Follow the plan exactly as I have ordered. Understood. Mastermind flinched. He may be a powerful telepathic illusionist, but Sinister was just as powerful, if not more so. Not to mention quite invulnerable to telepaths. Of course, my helpers are finishing the last touches. Then they shall work upon the caves. Perfect. Sinister eyed the screens, watching his favorite prey. One of his new favorite preys actually, the strange emerald feral. His interest had been piqued but yet to be quenched. Who are you, boy? He was eager to learn more. The new feral had much in common with Remy LeBeau. I am missing something. If it wasn't for the slight differences they have, I could swear they were the same person. Sir. He had almost forgotten his guest. Yes. Who shall be the puppet? Mastermind needed to know so he could apply the needed illusion or telepathic touch. A smirk crossed Sinister's face, causing Mastermind to shiver at the sight of rows of sharp teeth. I know the perfect one, but that shall be done after my demands have been completed. I want nothing left undone. Am I clear? Very, sir. Sinister nodded as Mastermind immediate. Telly vanished through an open tesseract. He returned to his new ongoing project, the capture of his thief and the new feral. He only hoped that this plan went off without a hitch, or he would need to come up with a different way to capture his pawns. Soon, very soon, you'll both be mine again. Back in my service once more. I don't give up what is mine that easily. LeBeau. X-Men Mansion. Why? Still up. Share. Remy was surprised to find Harry waiting in the kitchen as he slipped inside for a quick snack before bed. I was worried. Logan's on security duty. Remy fine. Tired but fine. Emerald eyes perused his body. Looking for injuries. Remy allowed it to soothe his friend's worries. Will you be with us? Non. He barely controlled the flinch as Harry's possessive jealousy and sadness battered at his shields. Rogie be havin' plans into morning. He hated to see that forlorn expression, hated to dash Harry's desires. Harry simply nodded, pushing past the still Cajun, then I bid good night. He didn't care if his voice was cold and possibly trembling. Remy sighed heavily as he watched that disappearing tail. Then he glanced down at his hands for the tiny computer disk he had generously borrowed. Before anything, he was a master thief and lived up to his reputation. A thief before friend, before lover, before teammate, but he wondered what the future held for a thief like him. Chat had called for the job where the good doctor needed certain information. The pay was always good, but am I selling my soul again? One man didn't forget, his blue eyes narrowed. What fears ail ya, pet? Xavier's office. Severus and I will be leaving tomorrow. Harry and I were able to handle our assets and accounts. But Severus was sent here abruptly. Amber eyes glanced at the silent wizard, though considering Albus and Minerva. Everything of his was taken care of. He just needs to settle loose ends, if any. Charles nodded, of course. He turned to face his guest. Is there anything you need done? Keep from bothering my trunks. Various items cannot handle too much movement. They need precise care. Severus rather wished he remained at Hogwarts. There everyone knew how he valued his privacy and belongings. Especially his profession. I'll be sure to warn the others. But feel free to ask for help. Severus barely nodded, ready to leave the room. This Charles reminded him too much of the mentors he lost. He'd rather a moment alone, to think, to brood. He had yet to speak with Potter, especially that curious box he still held in his possession. Severus. He started at the soft tone, forgetting about his companion. Mentally, he berated himself. As an ex-spy in Slytherin, he was always aware of his surroundings. One little mistake could cost him his life. Lupin. What happened? Really? A secret. One that had cost the life of Minerva. I know it all relies on that box of Potter's and what he left behind. Remus chuckled darkly. At least they get what they deserve. A dark brow lifted in visible surprise. Then again, Lupin was always more wolfish when the beast was bloodthirsty. And here I though Gryffindors cared for their friend's fate, especially Golden Boy Potter. Not this time. But that made Remus pause, seemingly thinking over his sudden outburst. Harry does miss them. So do I. They were his first friends, our family when we had none, and they turned their backs at the sight of a dark creature but could willingly be around me, a werewolf, Sirius, an innocent mass murderer, Hagrid, a half-giant, and Ginny, possessed by Voldemort. Even I miss Peter, despite him being the betrayer and murdering those innocent muggles. Like Harry, I wake up thinking it's all a dream and that one day they'll come back apologizing and everything will go back the way it does. But like always, reality crashes down and we realize something. Some part of us wants them to pay. We were duped continuously and they had yet to pay for their crimes. Potter said that. Are just you thinking out loud again? Lupin. This time, Severus really was shocked and it showed on his face. The Gryffindors always tried to defend their friends, though the Marauders had conveniently forgotten all about Pettigrew once he betrayed Potter, and the same happened with the Gryffindor trio whenever they had turned their backs on Harry before crawling back with apologies. Not so many words. I just know my cub. He guilts and broods over things he cannot control, as he did with Sirius. He feels harder than many. A part of him cries out for his friends to come back, hoping they would on. CE again laughed together without ever thinking of the betrayals. With his background with the Dursleys, I'm not ever surprised he immediately trusts them and conveniently forgets all about the pain. He hopes for a happy reunion like his fourth year, the tournament when the school turned on him as well as Ron and then came crawling back when he risked his life with those challenges. Another part of him desires for them to pay. He wants them to hurt as bad as he hurts. He desires that they feel betrayal, knowing he won't come crawling back this time. Severus nodded, chuckling. That would be quite the show. It also explains why Draco is now in charge, with Potter's consent. Draco rose from the ashes of the Dark Lord before the Ministry or before the magical world fully settled. A Slytherin has the perfect plans at all times for revenge. A smart move on my part, Professor. Harry smiled innocently, tilting his head. You were left a box, Potter. Oh, what's in it? Severus glared hotly, sneering. He had changed the subject because he didn't desire to compliment the same boy he proposed to hate most of Potter's school years. After all, he was just about the only very rare few that kept the boy from believing in the hype all others did. Unlike you, Mr. Potter, I can control myself. I don't need to break into someone's private things just to sat a curiosity without asking first. Dark eyes watched as the hybrid flinched. He loved knowing he still struck fear in the boy, even if they had come a long way from their original hateful companionship. But the pensive was and would always be a bitter memory. Then again, almost 6 months after the boy graduated, Potter thanked Severus for showing him the truth about his father everyone else fought desperately to hide. I thought maybe they told you. He sighed at the downcast look, pinching the bridge of his nose. No, Harry, it was as close as he would apologize for that reaction. Seeing the shy smile, he knew he was forgiven. They only mentioned how important it was that you receive it and that it shouldn't remain in Hogwarts as the school waited for a new headmaster. They stopped at his room to pick up the box. Harry rushed over, knowing instinctively what the other voice meant about blood and truth. It deals with me. We know that, Potter. No, came a snarl, it deals with me. Silver eyes flashed as Sheik came to front. My family, my pack. He stared unblinking at the object, murmuring, my blood, my past. Both older wizards snapped to attention. That's your entire past, cub. Sheik eyed the two men, each staring back at him in fascination. His wolf had an interest in those like him, dark creatures, especially when dealing with the dark arts and their defense. His humans ex-potions professor say, med to be eyeing him in disguised curiosity, and as if he was a very interesting rare ingredient. Just as curious, he left the box on the bed, turning to face his new toy. The only clue of the proud man's notice of his intense staring was the tiniest twitch of those long fingers. Sheik knew his chosen prey wasn't a submissive and would fight back as viciously as possible to secure his freedom and life. So much a warrior, an alpha unwilling to be tamed. He would have been the perfect hybrid warrior. Small pack, my warrior. What? Severus barely kept his flinch back but gave in to his childish desire buried under a cold persona. Petting the soft fur, he had always been curious about predator hybrids, ever since the stories and books. Remus answered with shock and joy, you're now part of his pack. Harry silently watched as many of the children left to visit family for the holiday. Not long after them, some of the team had been called out for a mission, to help aid a distant friend. He remained behind, watching the flurry of active, especially when minutes later Remus disappeared down the driveway with Severus and Bobby in tow. Coming. Prepare. Must protect pack. They suffer. All prices must be paid. Head tilted, eyes glazed, he listened closely to the bickering voices of Mother, the two sides of nature. Allowing her magic to flow through him, he wandered from his perch to the mansion. He smiled as a flow of familiar magic prickled his senses. Remus and Severus had been in no hurry to ward their rooms. After all, Harry had done the same for those he called his. It was his magic, with Mother's help, that warded the forest to keep a rampaging beast caged. Emerald eyes peered about his room, listening. Father of fathers comes. Concentrating, he focused deeply on the voice. Mother was warning him again, but not for Remy. Something bad was on its way for the remaining pack here at the mansion. There were still some children left and he feared the consequences. Both teams were about to be hit bad. His pack even harder. He further warded his pack's domains. Immediately, he created a secondary defense, asking Mother for help, as he also laid a shield over any and a re-entrance to the mansion from outside, to aid the children to flee safely before anyone with dangerous intentions could even try entering. Magic was strong, but he only worried for his pack and those he thought important before worrying of their things, though some he did try adding to his primary warding. Medical supplies, important. Potions, utensils, and ingredients, important. Equipment for medicinal, important. He continued running down a list of things he felt were important, especially Cerebro and the computer's dealing, possibly, with it. Then once he exhausted that list, he grabbed the box and rushed back outside. Fingers danced over the clawed marks, feeling safe and at home, as he entered an empty clearing. He felt that the remaining X-Men would be protected, or at least have backup on their way. Especially as Logan kept saying he could almost taste it whenever Harry and the others performed magic, much like Storm's weather abilities. Nodding at his conclusion, Harry glanced around the small grove, inhaling the scent of trees and earth. Logan had created a rustic camping spot for himself whenever he was injured to the point of being feral. It was a place Wolverine see. Old feel safe and heal without interference. He had made a lean to connect to a hollow tree, carving the space to include two bodies, easy to lie down or sit. His eyes glanced over the rugged stones lying in a tight circle. Ashes liberally sitting inside. Ignoring everything else, he crawled into the dark, cool spot, settling over the two thick coverlets. He always did like this area. It was a quiet place to run to if he ever needed to think or just be alone. For now though, he planned to sat his need for knowledge. How do I open it? Concentrate, my son, someone foreign called to him, tangling through his magic. Playing on his instincts as a single clawed hand, backed by magic, tore though the tiny lock. He shuddered violently as ancient magic roared awake, flowing forward to verify its chosen heir. His body overloaded with magic and allowed the dark to claim him. Shadowy mystery cave, he moaned. Twitching nerves raced with pain as they caused his body to tremble, trying to wake him. Blinking away a haze in his eyes, he frowned. This isn't the groove. Welcome, my son. Startled at the sight of a stranger in the shadows, he scuttled backwards, staring at glowing golden eyes. Who? What? Emerald eyes widened as the figure stepped forward, revealing a similar hybrid form. Sheik immediately trembled with respect. Alpha, welcome, my son. The time has come for us. For you to learn your blood. I don't understand. The Alpha laughed. I created this memorial when the packs were all but destroyed. My memory lives in this empty void, for as long as you need me. I can teach you our birth, our life, our supposed deaths, and our rebirth. I can teach you of the mother. For I am the father, the favored of favored. Why you can tell me everything. Alpha kneeled by his side, calming his fearful beast with a single touch. I shall hold nothing back. You will know everything, my son. First, you are my heir of our old pack. To know our life, you must know who gave us breathe. Watch. From the dull gray void a bright window opened wide, slicing through the shadowy with light, calling for Harry's attention as he stared. I would be careful, my sister. Quiet, you. I have no need of your views. I am the mother of this world. A high-pitched giggle rang loudly from dark painted lips. Ah, sister mine, you may rule the nature upon this world, but I control the deepest seas, the darkest forests. The dancing shadows. I am the truth and the lie as one. You lest forget. Doe brown eyes narrowed. No, I do not forget. She gave up arguing with her sister. Not many could come out unscathed. Must I deal with you now? Oh, but the favored will bow to a newfound power. Vengeance their gain. Blood shall spill the new moon, birthing such children. Thirsty for revenge. Protective of children. Dangerous as cornered. Soon blood will rain in the wake of an heir. Snarling, the woman had had enough, leaping to her feet, finger pointing to the exit of her temple. Get out, Eris. Now, quote. Eris laughed insanely as she skipped away, heed well. Then stopped cold when a bowing robed figure entering. Oh, pretty child. We must play. Would you play? Must scream well. Beg prettily and mummy buys you a new dress. Pretty dolly to dress. The faithful worshipper shrunk back in fear as curled fingers tangled in her blonde locks. She whimpered with every painful tug. All feared Mistress Eris. All knew her to be the mistress of the dark and chaos. No one dared, except those who desired the dark and the other gods, to be by her side in the same area or alone with her. Get out, quote. Eris smirked at her sister's shivering tone. Don't worry, my lovely. You'll live. She began drifting away, smirking wider at the huff of relief, turning back just as she stepped out. For now. Until later, my dear Gia. Quote. Gia eyed the empty doorway, then her trembling servant. It wouldn't be until her children turned on their father, spilling his blood, that she wished she listened. From her husband's spilled warm blood rose the strangest being, half man and half feline. Golden eyes glittered darkly as it bounded towards its first prey, her shivering servant who had come at her shrill screams. She had cried out with her servant, flinging bolts of power at the predator. She caged it in a corner with lightning before kneeling at her servant's side, staring over at her husband. As the creature somehow slipped its chains and eagerly lapped at his spilled blood. Well, well, her sister cheerfully eyed the creature, giggling as it hissed with every step she took, eyeing a furious Dia. Shush, kitty. Mummy's here. What have you done, Eris? Her sister laughed. We don't live forever. Oh, wait, you gods won't. A mortal defies true death no matter the form until end of time. Gods, magic shall be immortal. My blood, voice, and magic, all that makes me will thrive in one form, my children and wielder. Eris. She was tired. She didn't wish to fight for a coherent answer. Does sister wish to live? A hesitant nod. Eris knelt by her, whispering darkly in her ear, take my hand and swear. Together we live. Swallowing, Dia grasped the white hand of her sister. I swear. Good girl, was purred in her ear. She shivered when Eris walked away, bereft of her crazy sister's warmth despite the cold hand. Come, kitty, time to play. The gods. Alpha chuckled. All are children of the gods. Magic and life must start somewhere. We were born of blood. Harry blinked, suddenly realizing, that's why they believed I was dangerous, even believed how werewolves and vampires came to be. To become one. Blood is involved. The victim's blood infected by a bite. Very good, my son. You understand that much. Blood is life and death. Our lives will always be entwined with blood. Blood is everything. It is why we hunger for it, why we hunt. I'm beginning to realize that. And he did. The wizarding world had also been about blood, still as we had left behind your blonde to revenge. Was she as scary as she acted? Alpha shuddered, carefully choosing his words. Eris was different. She saw both halves of the world around her but thrived in chaos. She was the ultimate queen of mischief. The mistress of the night. But she wasn't truly evil. Even though she sounded like the Lestranges. Bellatrix Lestrange. I do believe Eris would have loved her. Try to make her into a living doll just to see her scream as pretty as she made her victims screamed. Logan grumbled around his cigar for the 5th time. He hated monitor duty. His beast rather OAM free than be bound to a swivel chair watching the quiet grounds, unless they include a fiery kitten. Blue eyes sparked as they caught sight of the golden-furred feline, boredom vanishing as he paid close attention. Wish I could join ya. Darlin'. Beep, beep, beep. The sudden shrill noise spooked his beast and forced him to cover his ears with a wince and growl. He slammed a fist down on the control panel, trying to search for the person who tripped the alarm. Logan. He glanced back to see the regal form of Storm, worry deep in her eyes. Someone tripped alarm. Harry. Everyone had found out the hard way that young Harry was a trouble magnet, especially those on monitor duty. There were times the alarms went off and they found a sheepish Harry to be the reason. It grew worse when ever Logan and or Remy were out on a mission or out of town for any reason. After the first several trips, the one on duty began searching for Harry, eyeing every monitor until they found him and kept a close eye on him until he either was in bed or was found by either Logan or Remy. Nah, he's in groove. Watched. I am head that way just before alarms were tripped. Storm hesitantly nodded, knowing there still was a possibility that Harry tripped something. Then who? Logan snarled as he found the targets. Military. Her eyes widened. What? He pointed out to a small team of uniformed officers sneaking through the far west side of the woods, closest to Harry. Be careful, darlin'. He truly did hope they didn't find his mate. Wolverine wouldn't be too happy, nor was Logan willing to force the beast into submission if something was wrong with Harry. What now, Storm? Get the children out. Send an emergency message to our allies to protect them. Put the Blackbird 2 on autopilot and behind shields. They are our first priority. Then join the rest of us to defend the mansion. Storm went into leader mode swiftly, snapping out orders as she pushed another button to alert her team for battle. Also raising the mansion's auto-defense mode. Wolverine wasn't happy about leaving his mate in the woods but knew how precious the children were to Harry. He couldn't abandon them now. Nodding to the white-haired weather witch, he hurried off to find the students already rushing from their rooms, Blackbird. Now, he helped them alter their route, rushing ahead to prep the jet. Get everyone on. It may be crowded but safer. Storm watched over her shoulder as Wolverine bound away for the children before searching out her small team. Goddess protect us all. She rushed out into the open with all the fury of nature. You will not enter. She unleashed all the power of her control, determined to drive back the enemy to allow the children freedom. She and her team wouldn't go down without a fight. She jerked at the sound of a roaring howl, knowing the bloodthirsty creature called Wolverine had entered the fray. For now the children were safe, but Harry was still missing. They would fight to find him, defend their home, and viciously try to run out the trespassers. Inside the mansion, a shimmering object danced through the mansion, jingling softly. Suddenly it stopped before a large mirror. Admiring its reflection, flying closer and touching the cool surface with tiny hands when it was distracted by a deadly growl. It hid quickly, waiting for the creature with G teeth and sharp metal claws to rush away. Shivering, the tiny fairy darted from its hiding spot to the upstairs. A voice scolding her in her head as she stretched out her senses. Oh, too big, mother. She jingled loudly, waiting for several other fairies to answer her call. Hurry, my children. They swiftly darted about the mansion, searching for the marked areas. Mother had sent them on a mission, calling to her children of nature to aid her son, her wielder. They ignored the cries of shock and pain outside, rushing into their destinations to finish what their fellow brother of magic started. Good. Just moments later, soldiers burst inside, one taking lead, 2 down and 3 up. 5 soldiers immediately broke off to follow orders. They searched their areas, looking for the items their boss desired, but to their surprise and fear there was nothing. They had no choice but return empty-handed to their leader. What do you mean it's empty? Boss said everything should be here, even Cerebro. Beep. He sighed, knowing this wasn't good, but at least they had the specimens their boss wanted. Fine. We leave with what we have. Now, unknown to their hasty retreat, several fairies were giggling when their fellow comrades flashed into view, pixies. Eyes wide, they watched as the pixies burst through every room and made sure their job was complete. Anything of value or possibly could aid the enemy suddenly vanished. As if there never was such a thing. They laughed, watching the windows as a large helicopter dropped as low as it dared to extract the imprisoned X-Men. Stay, my children, aid him. Such beauty in truth and chaos shall ring. Imprisoned elsewhere. Groggy, Storm slowly opened her eyes, sight blurry but coming into focus little by little. She peered around, trying to move but couldn't. She found her body encased in chains and her throat weighed down. Where's Remy when you need him? It was times like this that Remy was on her team, or that he could give her more lessons on how to break out of such shackles. She could steal small things or easily snip wires to enter a building, could even do stealth mode, but there were some things she couldn't do. As a master thief, Remy could slip out just about any imprisonment, without the use of his kinetic powers. She jerked against her short length of leash. Logan. Dazed blue eyes were opening and closing. It seemed Ed Logan still wasn't over the drugs fed to him. She watched helplessly as he slowly moved every limb to find himself trust completely, not completely as he has. Very little movement. Logan. She IED calling again but only got a grunt as an answer. She opened her mouth to call again when a screech of a door opening stilled her. Well, the infamous X-Men. Only so few. A bulky male stood before her, but his attention was on a dazed Logan. She didn't like the glimmer in his eyes, not one bit. Where are your fellow teammates? By the goddess, I hope Logan never gets free. She wanted say more, but her heart forced her to question, where's Sheik? Many weren't available. We are searching for those possibly with their families. Harry's free. He doesn't know about Harry. She just discovered a way to aid Logan. She refused to rise to the man's bait about the children. The X-Men's allies will have already made sure the children with their families were safe from harm. She was more worried about themselves and what the blue team would do if they found an empty mansion. She had to get her team free, and the only way was to do the one thing they tried not doing, releasing the full fury of Wolverine. But can I get to the man beneath the beast once we're free? Very well. We shall learn the secrets shortly. A couple days wait won't hurt. He turned away, stopping by a sluggish Wolverine, voice murmuring. So glad you could visit us once more, Wolverine. And then walked out. Storm was stunned. This man had the clues Logan had been searching for. Logan had his side trips, looking for his shattered past. She could wait to learn more, but Harry could also be in danger, as were the other children. No, I can't. Forgive me, Logan. She decided her team was more important than a past. For now, she had to get through Logan to Wolverine. His fury and animalistic rage could be the only way to freedom. Harry. He doesn't know Harry's here. If Harry's not here, perhaps I can convince him that Harry's in danger. She inhaled deeply, preparing for the worst. Please, bright lady, please aid us. Logan. Nothing. She tired again, voice louder, Logan. That got a curious grunt. You must hear me. Logan didn't stir, almost as if he was falling back into darkness. No, Logan. Hear me. Help us. We can't find Harry. Quote. Logan lay dazed, confused on why he hurt so much and why Wolverine was anxious. Something was wrong. Then a voice, Logan. He tried to answer but nothing. Silence. He was so tired. Then the voice came again, Logan. Hear me. Help us. We can't find Harry. He knew this person. He knew this Harry. Why? Who was he? Then images of a golden-skinned young man appeared, grinning at him, emerald eyes shining. He saw images of himself, stroking soft fur, running a hand through black hair, snagging a swishing tail. Memories flooded as the voice yelled out, demanding his help, pleading to help Harry before the enemy hurts him. Harry. No. Mine. Wolverine wasn't happy. Harry was his mate. No one else could have him. He struggled, he fought, and he pushed to be free. Storm watched with hope as Logan suddenly began thrashing around. Please let him help us. She kept her eye on him as she began gently rousing the others, hoping someone may know how to free themselves from the chains or at least their collars. If not, they would need to rouse a rag-ing Wolverine to tear through their collars and chains. Please. What happened to us? If we were her favorite, her children, why did she let us die? Alpha gently smiled. Eris didn't let us die. She gave us life and the will to live it as we wished. We worship her as we would not have been here today without her aid. Harry nibbled his lower lip, but how are you still here? Wasn't the gods during BC or something like that? Alpha laughed loudly. Oh, my heir. Magic is different. How do you think wizards and witches live so long? Magic slows their again process. Similar to how vampires are almost immortal or how werewolves can survive such brutal transformations. Then again, we hybrids are from the blood of the gods. We were born of their spilt blood, willingly or unwillingly. It's our blood that allows us life, whereas they passed on and allowed only their magic to survive. Blood is the major factor to life and death, magic simply boosts its strength more. Oh, that's why it's so hard to battle a master vampire or a decade-older wizard. Something like that, but blood will always be the key to almost every solution. Alpha waved a hand for another window to open. Our lives before the war were filled with peace. We battled, but that was the norm. The humans learned to leave the favored alone. What changed that? Who? Ah, my lord child, how goes my children? They thrive, ancient mother. You blood infuses them. Eris titled her head, hearing the hesitation. What ails you? Does the blood not work? Chaos reigns within their skin. The violence, the thirst, the need simmers to a boil. A strange smile crosses dark lips. Beautiful. Soon, very soon, the time will come. Under the brightest moon screams will ring, releasing the blocks. My newest child shall rise from the chaos. A child of balance but suffers. Born of blood and war, soon my truly chosen will bring back my era of chaos. Her eyes glittered insanely. Anger and betrayal belies a unique revenge. Oh, I hope to hear the outraged screams. I wish to play with the dolly, make her writhe, make them beg. Alpha watched wide-eyed as Eris bounded from her elaborately built throne, shivering at her words, and pounced on a newly arriving servant. Ancient mother. He didn't really want to remain if she was going to play. Eris purred as she knelt above the scrambling servant before hauling the body close with handfuls of the dark robs. The hood fell back to reveal a frightened young woman. Pretty, isn't she? A gift to me from her father in search of a favor. Such a lovely toy to play with. Lovely. Screams. He watched and trembled as had the servant. His beast prowled in his mind, tail lashing and ears flat. The hybrid wanted to play but its human balked. That battle of wills. Remus always fought against his wolf. Harry nodded. The balance. When neither beast nor host remains. When all that remains is the hybrid. It was confusing but somehow made sense. Sheik and he were two different people, but the hybrid was the creature they became when needed. No, ancient mother, I must return to the pride. Eris laughed. Yes, shadows rule before the light. She gently stroked creamy flesh, thrilling at the shivers. Ready to play, my pretty doll. Alpha rushed from the temple, refusing to turn back at the pained and pleasurable screams erupting from the young servant. He shuddered once more, knowing the goddess' tastes and ideas of play. Eris did have a love for beautiful things and people, but loved it even more when chaos and blood was involved. Hearing another faint cry, he winced. Knowing Eris was proving pain could become pleasure, that the same torture could take one over the cliff into shattering ecstasy. He just didn't wish to be witness, not when his beast wanted to fight for the prey she held. She was. Alpha chuckled at his heir's uncertainty. Eris had eccentric tastes. She warmed her bed with the willing playmates or those she chose. And that servant was gifted to her. She lives for chaos and mischief, but she does care for her few faithful, especially her children. Was she a seer? Not really. She pulled the strings of fate. She is the reason most feel as if fate hates them. She may prophesize but will always make sure they go as she saw it. Harry lowered his gaze. Knowing why his life had been so hard, she made them do it. Alpha held his heir tightly. She knew who she wanted and why, but she's only created the situation and key players. She chose the path of very few, the key players. The others followed their own path. Your friends, your supporters. Your betrayers were those. Your parents, the Dark Lord, your family were keys. But she knew, yes. Harry softly cried, what good came from the loss of my family and friends? Alpha purred softly in the golden ear, trying to comfort the young man. She gave you a family. She gave you freedom. She gave you a new chance at life. His voice was muffled by the strong chest. She took away the first people to ever love me. She took away Sirius. She took my parents. Alpha knew he had no answer for that, but he also knew Eris would be proud of her new protege. He didn't lie when he mentioned Eris loved chaos. But he did hold back the rare times when Eris seemed sane, seemed calm and happy. Eris was the goddess of chaos, but she was also the mistress of shadows. She was both sides of the coins. Though she rather one more than the other, even if her good deeds had a habit of returning with a vengeance. My lady. Those words jerked his air from his chest but not his arms. Alpha held Harry firmly as emerald eyes wandered over to a newly opened portal. Lovely. Eris stroked the hand-carved statue being dedicated to the goddess Demeter. Seemed many they already forgotten the mother of nature, Gaia. Dedicated to the land but not the mother. My lady. She eagerly tossed the statue from hand to hand before gently setting it down on its pedestal. We've come to visit. Answering a call. My lady, forgive us as we do honor your visit, but we call for the goddess of harvest. We ask for her blessing upon the land. Dilemmas. A favor shall be required later. She eyed the small children and their hovering mother. Yes, a favor. My dolly shall have a playmate to share in the pleasures granted. The family flinched at her words. She flounced away as a concerned father followed, freezing upon the sight of a strange creature, half man and half cat. He inhaled as she allowed tendrils of white smoke to lazily drift from her form over the tiny plot of land. Done. Come, my pet, you sent, and when the time comes we select. In stunned belief, the farmer could only watch as the creature raced into his home, hearing the frightened screams of his children and frantic shouts of his wife. No, his whimper meant nothing as the creature ran back out with his only son wrapped in its arms, then offered the sobbing child to a smiling goddess. Please. He'll do nicely. Clear blue eyes blinked rapidly, trying to banish the few tears clinging to dark lashes. Yes, very nicely. Hand him back. She watched as the boy was handed to a grateful father. We shall return when he is of age. Oh, of age. He couldn't believe what the woman was demanding. He couldn't lose his only son. Yes, he shall be my special project. Only when he is of age. Come, my pet, we have need of 3 others. Fearful eyes could only watch as they walked away, holding his son tightly to his body. What? Harry sniffled, confused by what he saw. Alpha smiled. That was a part of Eris few saw. But she took a child. No, my heir, she didn't. She accepted him as payment, yes, but for a reason. The gods had begun passing on their powers, their immortality, and their life. Eris knew no mere mortal could withstand such power without help. She had a way to aid the mortals. By demanding another's child, Alpha sighed, taking Harry's head between his hands, gently tipping it up to meet angry green eyes. She did not take their child. She chose them until they were of age. 4 children, 2 female and 2 male, were chosen to become the strongest of a new generation. She chose them to become the leaders, to become the teachers, to aid the faithful graced by gods. Harry frowned. That sounds a lot like the past of magic. Yes, she chose your founders. She gave them a purpose, a mission. And they trained us by building a school. But how did magical creatures come about? What about the purebloods and muggleborns? Are they what they say true? Well, silent. A bulky figure sauntered across the mansion grounds, bold as brass, itching for a fight. Golden eyes blinked lazily as they gazed about. Sniff. He inhaled deeply, tasting the scent of fear, anger, metal, gunpowder, and singed earth. Military. He tracked the scents about the grounds and into the mansion. He slinked through the thrashed rooms, sniffing, searching. Beneath the scent of military was an enraged feral and frightened children, but even deeper was something, almost dusty and tickling, causing him to sneeze. Then without trying, he found the sweetest of scents. Spicy and sweet as honey to his nose, kitten. He peered throughout every room, smirking at the broken furniture, thrashed closets, and jumbled items. Anything the military wanted to find was gone, but that didn't interest him. He just wanted to find the source of that scent when another familiar one came to his nose, Gumbo. He followed that to a lower level, smelling the oil of a jet plane. Gumbo, off ta new future already. Well, boss just wadn't ta getcha. But Sabretooth could care less, for now. He could always get Labo another time. He was just curious when Hunter mentioned he mansion being stormed, but the little feline wasn't among the prisoners. According to the filtered scents, all but one had vanished hours ago and away, far away, from the mansion. The one he followed, D was leading back outside towards the woods. Knowing it was his kitten, he raced off to find that succulent flesh, just missing the arrival of 3 people and just missing the one lifting his head, nostrils flaring. Out front, a car slowly pulled to a stop, allowing 3 people to step out. I still don't understand. Someone always remains behind, even if another had to mansion sit. Bobby snickered at his little joke, deliberately ignoring the heated glare of the dark-eyed man to his left. He always tried to lighten the dark moods of others when anything was wrong, such as now. No one had answered his phone call, hoping to let a solemn Harry know they were back. Remus. Head jerked up as his nostrils flared. He scented something. Someone's been here, but there's too many scent to filter through, overlapping each other. Severus discreetly slipped his wand into his left hand, eyes peering around carefully. Years as a spy honed his instincts and senses, especially considering his profession as a potions master. And those instincts screamed caution, and one is still here. Bobby opened his mouth to protest, but Remus cut him off. He's right. Remus and the Order had deepened on Ho's instincts of their spy and werewolf to survive. Drawing his wand, they carefully stepped around into the mansion. The sight shocked them, even forced Bobby out of his ice form at the sight of a trashed foyer. What in Merlin's name? Oh my god, it's trashed. Professor really won't like this. Unconcerned, Bobby fell back into ice form and slid off to search the other rooms, only to return looking fearful. It's all trashed. Someone ripped things out from the walls. Some other things are missing. Like Cerebro. Why would they steal Cerebro? Only a telepath can work it. To learn more, Bobby blinked, not realizing he spoke his thoughts. Easiest way to enter one's mind is to learn what you can of their belongings. Feral. What? All eyes turned to a furious Remus. Severus stepped back, wand raised. It may not have been a full moon, but he wasn't about to physically tangle with the lycanthrope-infected wizard, not if he wanted an advantage to win the fight. Another feral was here. Very recent. It was times like this Remus wished Sirius was alive. Padfoot was very useful in tracking. Remus may have come to a new world where his werewolf form had more control and his senses stronger, but he wasn't on par like Wolverine or any other feral. He forced himself to take a deeper breath, smelling the scent of wildlife and coppery blood. He led a bewildered Bobby and a wary Severus to the forest. Here he paused as the familiar scent of honey almonds overlapped his prey. Harry Potter's here. Severus heard the whisper. He's in the forest. It's where the scent leads. And Sabretooth knows. Bobby realized who the feral could be as Logan wasn't here. Logan would have met us at the door, dragging Harry with him. He would have made sure Harry met us since he worried. And here I believed Runt didn't have smart friends. Sabretooth prowled from the forest, frustrated. Where's my cub? Lose the kitten, wolf. Remus snarled, causing him to smirk. I'll be sure ta tell kitten ya care. Bobby spoke quickly, hiding near Severus. Logan will have something to say about that. Runt ain't nuttin'. Kitten is mine. My cub is mated. Sabretooth chuckled. Mated. And wrong one. Had. I am first. Very tasty. Feisty too. Remus snarled, leaping forward just as Severus grabbed him, harshly whispering spells to calm the beast. But that didn't stop the snarls. You raped my cub. You are not his mate. Fought and mated. Boss did cth. Boy fightin' wid. Runt first time. Fought a second, didn't they? Kitten was stopped before we finished. Remus froze. He couldn't default that. It was true. Logan mentioned, along with others, that Harry struggled to keep them away from an injured Warren. Weeks later was their final dominance battle in which Logan won. Listening to this feral made him wonder. There was very little information on predator hybrids, despite what some learned. Harry fought Logan while weakened and slowly healing. Hank had confirmed that RRY had almost cleared out the last of Sinister's homemade compound to subdue the little feline, before the second fight. According to Sabretooth, this feral fought a healing and weakened Harry, even with Sheik possibly in control. With Harry in full health and strength would be the second time, no. Remus. Lupin. Remus snapped from his daze, limp in his colleague's arms. He's Harry's mate. That's not possible. Being stunned couldn't describe Bobby's reaction as Severus simply kept himself from the argument, but Logan's his mate. They told us so. Kitten ain't half lion, boy. Remus remained limp and quietly spoke. Sheik had a dominance battle with his chosen mate, twice. He fought Logan at half strength and lost. He struggled at half strength with Creed and lost. He was limed by both but demanded his second battle at full strength. So far, only Logan won. And Potter wasn't finished with this. Severus vaguely pointed to Sabretooth. Creed. No. Jean mentioned they had to split the two apart in order to rescue him and Remy. They were fighting over Remy's body when found. Sabretooth chuckled, told Runt kitten was mine. Harry isn't yours. You only won once but not the second fight. Logan did. Sabretooth grinned ferally. But another interrupted. What's going on? All eyes turned to find a concerned Charles and curious Hank. I returned from a meeting to find my school in shambles and my team missing but felt you out. Here. He glanced to Sabretooth. Why are you here, Victor? Lookin' fair my kitten. Remus snarled at the blonde before answering the professor. We came back to find the school in shambles ourselves and Creed out here. I've contacted Emma. She has the students, those who remained behind. According to her, someone infiltrated the mansion. Sabretooth grunted, not willing to explain. He wanted one thing and one thing only. He didn't care for anyone else, though Runt was his to kill only. Remus answered for them once again. They're gone, the other team. Their scents are overlapped by others but I found Harry's leading to the forest. We haven't entered because Creed met us first. Before anyone else could mention a single thing, a low growl came from the forest. Sabretooth shifted stances, rolling his shoulders and baring his fangs, giving off his own growl. From the shadows pounced a lone figure, flying straight into Sabretooth. Remus and Severus immediately flung up a barrier, which both ferals bounced off of and tumbled back into the forest. All eyes could only stare, No one willing to step into that battle, not with their life possibly at stake. You've done what your father's master couldn't. Draco lazily blinked, not bothering to remove his eyes from the piles of paperwork before him. Tone bored, of course. A true Slytherin always has a plan, no matter the obstacle. And Potter, my heir has begun his journey. He shall learn the lost heritage, the last secret of the ancient gods. A shuffling noise. Say had both men watching the door to ex-headmistress McGonagall's office as a lone red-headed wizard slipped inside. Draco kept his face blank of all emotions except his usual sneer. Weasley. The N.E.U. Board of Governors has arrived, as has your mother. Ron kept his eyes down. He hated his position, but the knowledge of his betrayals and loss kept him cowed, forcing his fiery personality to the back burner. He wanted nothing more than to rant and rave, to hex, to pummel that smarmy blonde. Draco was simply amused, as he loved a challenge. Ronald Weasley always provides such a challenge, more than orphaned Potter. As it was always Weasley he had to contend with more often. Send them in, Weasley. He waited until Ron was almost out the door. Oh, and Ronald, bring the needed items to my quarters tonight, after dinner. His guest chuckled as an indignant Weasley fled. Playing with fire shall burn, my boy. Draco smirked at his guest. Ah, but that's the fun when dealing with Ronald. Footsteps were slowly approaching the door. Both knew they were probably taking their time while Ron was hurrying to be rid of the ribbing he probably was receiving. And his family, all but one, has no problem. Ronald gets the best of everything as long as I keep him. His family remains secure in their employment while Ronald serves me in every way I desire. As the handle twisted, the female Dr. Ako's eyes flared with danger as his voice dropped low. If she isn't careful, she may become someone's toy, if not food. He quickly changed subjects as Ron stepped inside with the newly arrived guests. Ah, welcome. We have much to discuss. What exactly are we discussing, Draco? Why, Theodore, have you forgotten? The Ministry is in shambles and Hogwarts itself is deplorable. Another ex-Slytherin smirked. That would explain all that paperwork. Class schedules, book lists, head of houses reports, syllabuses, applications, and several of the items are for the Ministry. Things I plan on fixing before the school year begins. From behind, Narcissa Malfoy watched as the small group perused the various documents, smiling as her son took control. Her baby boy was finally becoming his own man. Lucius would have been proud if he hadn't fallen so deeply into madness. For once a Malfoy would bring the proud lineage from taint to respect. For once she could feel satisfaction for being able to finally put her foot down about a single decision regarding her only child's life. She had been the one to pair her child to a vampire. She had been determined to protect her baby boy from Voldemort. Oh, mother. She waved off her son's apologetic tone. Continue, Draco. We have time. This is more important. Of course. Dobby, a house elf, appeared at his call, bowing to him, trembling. Bring up some tea and light biscuits. Yes, Master Draco. Blaise sighed, leaning back as the tray of goodies appeared, eager for a hot drink and buttery soft biscuits. We should start with the Ministry before the school. Pansy sneered. We should clear out the filth first, Blaise. We don't need the taint any longer. No. Pansy turned shocked eyes to Draco as the others smirked, knowing what would be said now. I plan on doing better. I took this world with the help of a determined half-blood and I refuse to let us die out now. I plan on doing much better. Pansy was determined to set her future husband to rights. She refused to give up her parents' dream just because Draco turned his back on their lord when their hated rival interrupted. Malfoy, he's here. She laughed at the sight of a cowed Weasley. Well. A weasel finally knows its place, serving its betters. Draco glared hotly at her before gracefully rising to his feet, beckoning Ron to follow him, when he suddenly decided to pull his new boy close. Murmuring in the reddened ear, tell him I shall be down shortly. Then pushed Ron towards the door. Draco, what are you doing? He on the other hand loved knowing she wasn't getting what she wanted. Ah. Pet, so good of you to come. Draco dipped his head in respect. Always, my lord. May I ask, what do you plan now, my pet? You've used the ancient law to bring about change. Draco snagged Ron along as they began walking the hallways. Potter had ideas. He knew Ron would stop struggling just to hear more, and he was proven correct. He was misled, told how to live his life according to others, but Potter knew what had to be changed if this world wanted to survive for centuries to come. What changes, my pet? Draco thoughtfully answered, a new minister. One with no prejudices of creatures or bloodlines. Potter was right. Purebloods really are dying out. We need new blood to survive. We need new laws to protect what is ours, especially those innocent and being harmed for what was not their fault. Daxus nodded. That could go for the attacks of a raving creature having to find food the hard way because of the laws, or an innocent man sent to prison without a fair trial. And the school, quote, will no longer separate the children. We've suffered too much because of it. Potter showed me what he thought was needed, but that was just the tip of the problems. I do plan on emerging the dark arts into studies. There are other classes I plan on bringing to light, while even others will change. Ron bristled, knowing what wasn't being said, and those who won't come. We shall remove them. You can't obliviate every Muggle and Muggleborn. Nor can you take away their magic. It isn't done. On the contrary, Ronald, that is the choice for the parent. Either they allow the child entrance or lose them for good. The same goes for any magical child. Daxus chuckled. He chose well for his pet. This boy would keep his consort alive and well entertained. So refreshing, my pet. Draco smirked, knowing Ron was safe from his master, at least until Ron either attacked him or he grew tired of his toy. Will you visit the councils, my lord? Daxus nodded. We will need their demands for me to finish with the ministry before starting on the school. I should have some semblance of control by the time you return. My board has already reviewed the paperwork on my desk. Taken over as headmaster. Haven't decided yet. I was thinking of someone else, but I shall choose soon. Very well, I shall take my leave. Daxus gently nipped his consort, lapping softly at the mark upon a pale throat. He watched those liquid eyes flutter with each touch before pulling away. Draco panted as he stared at the shadows dancing in the hallway before forcing composure upon himself. Come, Ronald. Ron bit his lip, knowing where he was being dragged. She won't be very happy. Oh, I know, but it's time she realizes she doesn't get what she wants. Not anymore. He pulled the wizard tight to his body. She will understand that I don't share very well with others, not when it comes to my toys. Now, come. He dragged a partially unwilling Gryffindor to a room of Slytherins. He suspected that the Gryffindor wanted to shock and disturb the Slytherins like he had in school, but worried he was about to die in a pit full of vipers. As they entered, Pansy sneered, finally. Draco held in a laugh at the sour look on her face as he pulled Ron down in his lap, sitting behind the large desk, pressing the warm body closer just to see her face darken even more. Have we decided? Blaze grinned at the sight of a jealous and angry Pansy. She had been trying since they were kids to seduce Draco into a marriage of which she wanted control. We aren't too sure what needs to be done in the ministry, but... He handed over a parchment scribbled with notes. Here's what we think should be done for Hogwarts. I still can't believe we won. Oh, do believe, Teddy. Dark Lord failed against Potter, whereas I prevailed with just a simple ancient law. Pansy couldn't understand how Draco praised Potter for his win. Potter's not even a pureblood and you congratulate him on some law he wouldn't even know. A blonde brow rose at her scathing tone. But Sirius Black did as had his friend James Potter, who both told a curious Lily Potter. They left behind the needed clues for Potter, apparently. Potter simply reminded me. Narcissa heatedly glared at the greedy witch. Unlike her husband, she did not favor this child of the Parkinsons. She heard the gleef. Boasts of how this girl was an easy lay but too demanding even in bed. But even now her husband had no say over her son's life, not if he wished to remain in Lord Daxus' good graces. With their only heir bonded to a vampire lord, Daxus was the only one to make the huge decisions or allow his consort's parents' permission, after they asked. And she also knew that Daxus did not share very well with others. She's seen the way the man acted when Draco came home, sending the boy and then disappearing to their room if a scent seemed to linger longer than it should, especially if the triumph in her son's eyes were any indication. As if Draco enjoyed making his master jealous. Even now, Draco simply glanced down uninterested, as if he expected such a move before nudging Ron more into the middle of his lap. Tracing a single hand beneath the shirt to touch pale skin, both Malfoys enjoyed the outrage of Pansy. Ah, but Pansy, dear, I had plenty of time to decide the world's fate while in hiding. Even thought of what my presents should be when I won. He shared a smirk, over the trembling shoulder of his boy, with his mother. He enjoyed upsetting Pansy's attempts to corral him, determined to see how long it would take before she blew as he leaned back in his chair, pulling a warm body closer, even if the muscle tensed with every touch on bare skin. Oh, I am going to enjoy this. You said the oath began with the hybrids. A nod. How? There weren't references to that. Alpha chuckled, enjoying his heir's curious nature. Over time legends are lost as many no longer believe or think they pertain to one's family. Others are simply twisted to fit one's ruling or desire. Many others are buried beneath a Gordic knot of loopholes to keep it hidden from prying eyes. But the oath, it wasn't lost nor hidden. It's told by all purebloods and magical creatures. They just never wrote it down as a law. Why? Because, my heir, a curse made in blood can never be forgotten. A blood curse follows its chosen path no matter the obstacle. The curse of consorts is such a powerful piece of Eris chaotic magic, it is but a taste of her vengeance. Harry stared at his sire, trying to understand, how is it a part of your, mine, our heritage? A gentle smile crossed Alpha's face, knowing it was hard for his heir to accept. Harry's first heritage, a child, innocent and alone, was hated simply for being born by his relatives. His second heritage, a magical one, betrayed him constantly. Now, he hesitated in learning his newest heritage, a creature born of God's blood, the darkest of all, the firstborn. Watch, my heir, watch. Harry reluctantly turned to the viewing portal as images began to play. Ah, my pet, our reign has begun. Soon the last god shall vanish, bringing forth a new era. And shortly, we shall begin our own era unlike the ones my fellow companions have gifted. Mother, Eris smiled down at her pet, her child. She stroked the silken fur, delighting in the vibrating purrs. Do not fear, pet. You will soon have a family. When the moon shines high and clear, we shall hunt for a new clan of gods to balance the unique humans. He smiled eager for a companion. He desired a mate at his side. Cubs of his bloodline, he wished for a clan to call his own, a family so he may not be the last. Please, he purred the plea to his mistress, his mother. A gleam sparkled in dark eyes. Yes. Hunting this moon shall work. We are in need of playmates. The brighter the moon, the darker our desires shall rule. Blood will never taste as sweet without fear and tears. She stood from her throne. Come. We prepare rooms for our chosen. That didn't answer the question. Harry blinked as he was interrupted. No, it doesn't. Not yet. This was how my clan became to be. I am the first, the father. But how are hybrids the darkest? Alpha smiled, eyes glazed with memory. Continue watching. It begins shortly. He turned away as his heir stepped closer, not wishing to renew the part of his past he tried so hard to forget. The moon raises high, my pet. Look below. She pointed to a small village, dark and quiet. A village sleeps unaware of their future. Go, my pet, go play. Hunt, choose, begin. Eager for a clan, he allowed the full moon to control his hunger. He allowed his beast complete control in his hunt. Fangs gleamed with dripping saliva and muscles, bunched in anticipation before he tore down the hill to the quiet village. He barreled into the first hut, nostrils flaring and scenting deeply. The shrill shriek of the boy's mother caused him to jerk away from such a sweet treat. He snarled as she swung at him with a broom. One solid grip and he yanked it away, forcing her off her feet. He dove for her struggling body, determined to silence her for trying to take away his yummy treat. Her piercing screams woke the village. Up above, standing proudly, laughed an insane goddess as torches flared to life. She squealed with delight as she watched Ed the grisly scene of a lone predator using teeth and claws to viciously tear through skin and muscle, laming many of the villagers while more lay dying from sliced throats. She quickly hurried down to soak in the scene, feeling hot sprays of blood across her face, a pink tongue darting out for a taste of heated copper and salt. She grinned widely as blood soaked her gown and hair, drenching her in its heavy weight and scent. She danced nimbly over slick ground, laughing as fire roared high upon the wooden huts, burning bright and fast. She eagerly joined in the fight, grabbing those pretty dolls trying to flee. With her magic she tied them in place, protecting them from the dying and dead. They would be her toys for later. To her, this was but a taste of fear and pain. Soon they would learn to love her touches. As had many others. Within the hour, the entire village had lost. Very few remained alive, moaning in pain. He coated the ground with rivers of blood, painting the village dark red. Fangs dripped with tinted red saliva as his nostrils twitched at the heavy scent of blood, death, smoke, and singed earth. He ended his hunt back where it started, with the lovely treat still lying unconscious upon the ground. Purring while holding the warm body very close. So lovely. Pretty rivers of dark red. Eris knelt by the boy and her child, screams echo in the night. Such pain and pleasure. Oh, how I wish to play. Eager eyes glanced over her new toys. Mother, we shall part. This is but a taste of our victory. Soon the wind shall carry our battles to all. The picture of red rivers shall spill for eyes to see. She giggled, dragging 2 fingers through the thick layer of blood. Her designs made no sense, but anyone would recognize the signals of Eris. She would be Red as the one who marked this village for death. Mortals knew she wasn't fully sane or coherent, that she was capable of such terror. Come, mine. Harry gagged, tears falling hotly. He couldn't believe the scene he witnessed. One lone hybrid destroyed a single village of men and women, even tore apart innocent children trying to flee. Why, that is who we are, my heir. That is what a lone hybrid can achieve with the right incentive. Beneath several bright moons I have willingly and eagerly destroyed villages to gain my clan. I regret nothing. Stunned Emerald stared at him. I accepted my heritage. I know who and what I am, but you do not. But the children, I was always protective of them. They did nothing wrong and you tore them apart for simply running away. Alpha gripped the struggling form tightly, unwilling to have his heir fear him for what he had done. I chose my clan. I discarded those I did not need. Yes, I could have let them all live, but I allowed my instincts freedom. We are protective of our children. Those we call ours. But we will defend against any threat to what is ours. I considered them all to be a threat to what I chose as mine. Screams rent the air, as eager figures ripped through another village. The air grew thick with copper and smoke as tiny rivers ran along the soaked ground and walls. Eris, once again, watched from above. Yes, it's almost complete. Soon another shall begin. My child, enjoy now, for you will be needed to fulfill another's destiny. A child of my blood shall be born. Children of ours shall rise from shadows. She grinned at the scene, knowing what was ahead. Soon, she watched from her throne, eyeing an open portal. She had one last gift to grant. Yes, time to begin. Come, my desiring hunters. Do not fail me. In her portal frolicked 4 hybrid cubs. She kept an eye on the shadows behind them. It had been a matter of time, decades since they destroyed villages. Now she watched as a group of hunters were formed of those with magic. Ones with a grudge to bear. Please, do, I beg of thee. Her eyes glittered dangerously. She raised 4 powerful children of magic, giving them purpose and path in life. All she asked in return, to leave what was hers alone. But here she found, after giving them land and money to build, they dared to secretly begin the eradication of her children. Come out, wherever you are. In one fluid movement, she stood, eyes sparkling as the hunters found and attacked the cubs. Most of the spells bounced of their natural shields until their enemy began casting weapons to attack. The cubs shrieked in pain and fear as they tried to flee, to fight back. But the weapons relentlessly rammed the young bodies, tearing through thick hide for the vulnerable skin below. Splat! Droplets of blood showed their victory as they howled for help. Eris vanished from her temple to her children's side just as 2 cubs finally fell to its wounds and the last 2 fell to sharp CES across their throat from charmed daggers. No more beasts now. There's more, but this will get the minister's point across. He'll be glad to know the devices work. They've got shields but are easily worn down. Eris immediately made her presence known. Hunters. Yes, a special group of unspeakable directed by the minister. Such a shame you did not listen to me. I made you who you are now and I can change that. I would be willing to overlook such actions, but she pointed to the fallen cubs, were mine. Your founders should have already explained this. Do not touch what is mine. Her eyes flared with power. You broke the one law handed down by the gods, and you all shall pay, every single one of you. It will be in your magic. This curse you shall carry. She smiled at their stunned looks, the curse of consorts. Blood for blood. You all shall lose what's precious to you. All but one. She turned to one man, staring straight at him, lucid and calm. But you, my new pet, you will bear your line until it ends in betrayal, bloodshed, and death. It will be on your head that a child born shall destroy all this ministry stands upon. It will be on your head your fellow wizards shall suffer one dark era and straight into another. From your line shall be a child of my blood, my wielder. She smirked as they tried to run, thinking they could free themselves from her curse, but she would not allow her children suffer without a chance for revenge. No, they would be the first to fall. He barely moved, allowing years of instinct to keep him aware and study his surroundings without moving or opening his eyes. All he could tell was that he had company, whether friend or foe, he couldn't tell yet, and they were in a slightly chilly space. Curious, he slitted his eyes enough to peer about, only to find he was in a shadowy cave. A cave. Clink, clink. To his left someone stirred. He frowned, searching when he noticed the chains and shackles tying him in place. Another sly movement made him aware of the collar at his throat. Dread filled his stomach as he tried concentrating. Nothing, Jenishan. Is everyone all right? The motherly tone of Jean broke through the silence. Several groans answered her as she tried rising to her knees, despite the pain and shackles. He remained silent, instinct screaming danger. This was very bad, and he had no defenses to keep his secrets. Although the collars would keep everyone from using their abilities, especially the telepaths. But that wasn't what really bothered him. He knew what this was about. His ex-boss had always threatened to restrain him in chains, just to keep him. Now he wished that certain individuals had remained behind. He knew his secrets were about to be exposed. Not now. Jean, on the other hand, glad to force her telekinesis to work, but nothing was happening. Immediately she began to take stock of her surroundings, finding a collar around her slim throat. Jenishan collar. But we weren't anywhere near Genosha. Where are we? Where are we? The familiar southern tones told Jean that Rogue was finally awake, or at least coherent enough to talk. I'm not sure, Rogue. We're in some type of cave. Rogue, are you wearing a collar too? Quote, yeah. Rogue sounded a bit fearful but mostly angry. After all those times she complains about not being able to control her powers or desiring them. But then Jean had another thought. Remy was among them. He was a master thief. Storm could pick some locks or at least bypass alarms, but Remy surpassed her talents. He has to be able to free us. But in his little spot Remy refused to move. He already felt sluggish. Aspirin. He knew things would change now. Hank and his ex-boss knew that aspirin could put him down quickly, the easiest way to subdue him. He worried what would happen, as Logan and Harry already understood, willing to stand by, but will they? Can anyone move? Remy. Oh. He wanted to answer, but a part of him refused. The drug was still running strong through his system. So fresh he could almost taste it. Something wasn't right. Then again instinct screamed Sinister was in control. Outside the cave. Will this work? Of course. It's time I regained what's mine. He belongs to me. A lone figure in red leaned back in his chosen chair, eyeing the blue-armored mutant, curious. And how exactly do you plan to keep his friends from aiding him? Sinister chuckled. They won't. Not once the truth is revealed. Remy will be an outcast once more, once again awaiting a hero to save him. And I shall be that hero. Quote, chance. Sinister smirked. My pet got his second chance and never told them. I doubt they'll give him a third. He glared at his silent companion. You just complete your part of the deal, Eric. Quote, he eyed the files handed to him, refreshing what little knowledge he already knew. One picture caught his eye. Rogue, the mysterious Southern belle that had joined the team with controversy on her side before they grew to trust her. According to Sinister's side note, the woman also kept a sliver of her lover, or is that ex-lover. For a while she had his abilities and had suddenly ran to Seattle theater that was lost in an explosion. The rubble remained, a reminder of those lost and because Sinister refused any new buildings to cover his private lab entrance. Seems she's the main key to condemn LeBeau. As is this one. He pulled out a second photo. A young woman called Psylocke. Betsy Braddock. She was a telepath that had a millisecond connection with Remy LeBeau, before he forced her back out of his mind. Oh, what's this? He found notes saying Warren Worthington was LeBeau's defense attorney. Yes, this shall be interesting. Sinister turned around from watching his workers to eye the man sitting at the podium. So-called Eric the Red was his key player in proving Remy LeBeau was his and his alone. All he had to do was show the truth LeBeau hid. The same truth one telepath and Southern Belle caught glimpses of, even if they didn't understand. Soon, LeBeau, you will be mine. I still wonder of your certainty that they shall leave behind LeBeau. Easy. They know of their entire team's past but they know very little of LeBeau's. And what they do know was forced upon them, almost tearing them apart, especially his little on-again off-again relations with Rogue. He refuses to tell the truth until his past came calling with a vengeance. Sinister tired of the doubts he heard. He knew how the X-Men felt about the Morlocks. They knew of the Marauders but not who led them to the tunnels. Oh, the surprise he had for them would be shocking. LeBeau would soon find out the X-Men were not his family, only Sinister was. He sighed, waiting impatiently as the last detail was finished, then turned to Eric, gather them. The trial begins. The cave. Remy shifted or tried to, considering the drug in his system. Everyone had tried pulling at their chains, questioning their whereabouts. Can anyone get free? A chorus of, no, answered Jean. She jerked once more at her shackles in frustration. No one could free themselves and their resident thief was either unconscious or at least unable to move much. Ah, X-Men, time to go. All eyes blinked as a figure in red suddenly appeared in the cave, looming over them. With a flick of his wrist, the chains fell but the shackles and collars remained, forcing them to stand at his bidding. I have quite the surprise for each of you. They stumbled along as a groggy Cyclops demanded, where are we and who are you? I am Eric the Red. Cyclops tried to glare, as nothing more came before trying again, why are we here? Eric chuckled darkly, pushing open the double doors and leading his prisoners inside. They gasped at the sight of a courtroom. Surprised. Good. He forced them into the arranged seats. I shall be your judge and jury of this session. He led the last two still standing to a separate table. By the end it shall be one of you as the executioner. What is this? Cyclops was unhappy, demanding an answer to this charade, although something worried him, growing at the sight of a nervous Cajun. Eric laughed, forcing Remy and Warren side by side before going to his podium. Welcome, my X-Men, to the first and possibly only trial of Remy LeBeau. What? They all stared in shock. He raised wood and gravel, bringing it down hard. I call this trial to begin. Mr. Worthington shall defend as I call your first witness, Psylocke, to the stand. She made the wielders. Alpha chuckled. She needed a link between her and her domain. Nature was a part of her. More so with Gia, but Eris also had a hand in it. Nature demonstrated the opposing sides of dark, light, and shadows. Eris was chaos and balance all rolled in one. That is what a wielder truly is. A child of opposition. They are the outlet to that opposition, the key to give balance. Harry frowned. That was not the definition to describe a wielder according to the magical world. But Remus said wielders weren't outlets. He said that a wielder was a weapon able to absorb natural magic to boost theirs, able to manipulate that magic to our own use. Laughter rang clear. Ah, my heir. Most of Mother's children used natural magic to make them more powerful. Very few knew the truth of what they do. Then again only one was her true son. Golden eyes peered intently at a confused Harry. Perhaps I should say too as you are standing here today before me. True son. But I thought you just said everyone's her children. Watch, my heir. They slaughtered our cubs. They all deserve to pay. Eris tilted her head. They shall, but you must prepare, my pet. They shall also retaliate, but in the end we shall prevail. Such beauty it shall become. Alpha watched her closely. Mother. She stared at nothing, eager for much. Blood spilt to born a creature. Blood spilled of innocence begins a curse. Blood betrayed shall bring a new era of dominance. A child of death shall become a savior of all creatures. And you, my pet, shall set the stage. Vengeance born of a clan lost. Alpha flinched, thinking over his children, his pack, and his mate. He did not wish to lose them, but Eris was more than a seer. More than sisters' fates. She was the first, the mother, the life, the shadow. She was the balancer, the judge. When one side became too strong, she intervened, though she intervened just to enjoy the chaos. Mother, go, spend with them. I shall visit the newly created ministry. Such curiosity it brings to this new era cleansed of gods. I eager for more knowledge before my sleep. She vanished, leaving him behind. Her next appearance was a silent invisible entrance inside a large room holding a small team of robed figures, practicing various hexes. Tched as the appointed man called minister speaks, you are the best this ministry has to offer, unspeakable as you will do the bidding of saving our world. A group of dark creatures have been found. Half human half beast but murderers all the same. You are to eradicate them before the Dark Lord can gain their alliance. They are dangerous beasts, mostly resistant to spells but not weapons. I strongly recommend the entire group destroyed. Am I understood? Yes, sir. The darkly cloaked figures and masked faces snapped to attention before returning to their practice. Eris was simply intrigued. She knew of this so-called Dark Lord. She knew them all simply because chaos could not survive without her interfering. Even in the wake of her death, she had her ways of interfering, even if it meant moving the mortals around like pawns. For now though, she would let things fall the way they should. You shall do nicely. Such beautiful chaos you shall bring to light. Everything this world knows is about to change, and this is just the beginning. You shall bring the darkest era of shadows yourselves. This was the change of all changes that she couldn't wait to see. Oh, she would mourn the loss of her pet and his children, but he would soon find a way to breed others to dominate this world. After all, life had a way of surviving and evolving. Besides, her hybrids weren't the only creatures His humans hunted, and she couldn't wait for the day when their hunting failed to keep the dark creatures in hand. Oh, such beauty. Peace and chaos blends the time. What have you done? Eris barely added an eye to a voice she hadn't heard in some time. Gia, my dear little one. Don't spout that to me. A ghostly form appeared at her side. She smirked at the wavering wisps of colorless smoke forming into her sister. Well, hello. Such a nice greeting. Have you come to watch the events unfold? Grand isn't it, when mortals can't hear a god? But beautiful when they bring their own end of life. So lovely to see an array of colors sparking in the air from them. So much like eyeing the power of Ares. Yummy as well when worshipping him in such physical form. Gia flinched. She never liked the reminders of her murdered husband. Nor of the children she bore, who caused his early demise. I should have never joined you. Dark eyes flashed, and missed the fun. So much fun watching mortals ace about trying to ease their problems with no heavenly help. Eris giggled childishly behind a hang, lost and confused but determined all the same. You are destroying everything. We could have enforced our ruling for centuries to come. You made us give up that right. And for what? Murderous predators and vicious wizards. Like these, Gia flung a hand in the direction of the unspeakable, these mortals. Who murdered innocent children and cheer for more. They talk of killing an entire clan bearing innocent children. Your son murdered entire villages just for a select few to add to this clan. Why? Eris eyed the heaving form. You see. This is human nature without the influence of the gods. They lost their belief, lost their faith. The gods were dying. I gave them a chance to live on. And you, my time is just about up. Chaos will always thrive, keeping me immortal. A balance shall occur to the dangers of now. Bloodshed shall breed a new era of betrayal and vengeance. Death of many shall birth a chosen of one. Soon a shade of gray emerges. Born of blood the curse reigns supreme. Gia shivered. She finally understood. Those of vision were ruled by Eris. It was she that bred life, death, and birth. The gods and mortals were but pawns on the playground. What have you done? Eris giggled. An era shall begin with my baby. Baby. Oh. Gia knew she would regret this, but Eris had a way with words that could and would drive a saint insane with curiosity. What child have you spawned? Her sister snickered insanely. Mine. A true son. My wielder. You've lost me, Eris. Must you speak in riddles? Eris smirked. Why do you think seers are ramblers, never giving a straight answer? I see and know but they don't. I know and calculate. Calculations for the best odds. Gia froze, staring between her sister and robed children of magic. Eris had already set her players against each other. Why? Because the odds are good. But the children. Eris felt a twinge of sympathy, but that was who she was. She was a child of balance. She was a player to the shadows. There was no dark and light when dealing with her. Sometimes one must lose to win. To Gia that was the clearest NSWER ever spouted from the insanity that plagued her sister. Change it, please. Both goddesses watched as the team vanished. In their unknowing stead was a rippling watery mirror. One cannot change what is needed. Humanity suffers, and usually without our help. I intervene should I discover reason to. Roars filled their ears as they watched the vicious slaughter. A cornered animal is the most dangerous. Deadly to one's health. They watched as several mortals were brought down beneath bloodthirsty hybrids. Weapons were ravaging the same creatures, bringing them down before most could follow through with their kill. Look, my sister. Gaia's sickened attention eagerly drifted from the bloody battle of human and animal. To her right was a second mirror, portraying several warriors standing ground. Just behind them were flickering shadows. What? Then she realized what they were. The cubs were fleeing, the older ones running with their younger, trying to find safety in the thick foliage of the forest behind their tiny village. How? The odds will become my favor. Eris grinned, eyes glowing with knowledge. To her, time was coming to hand. She had them slaughtered. Alpha nodded. He still mourned the loss of his clan and mate. They had died to protect their cubs and territory. After the 4 deaths of the tortured cubs, weeks earlier than the final attack, their children had been afraid to leave their parents' sight, even for a moment. When the battle came, it was the females who tore most of the humans apart, the mothers of the dead cubs, angered and grieving, hoping for rest and relief. He had sent 4 guards to help the remaining cubs to flee, to hide. The forest around them was very thick. As long as they shifted to animal form and remained deep within the forest, they would be safe until someone came to them. By the battle's end, Alpha had lost his entire clan, even those he had first brought into his life decades before, becoming the only one with the grace of Eris to survive. He even lost the guards aiding the cubs. His mourning howl echoed through the sky as Golden Eyes found several bodies of the cubs that never made it to safety. Why? Harry froze. Lived. Alpha nodded. My only son. My heir. Gave his life with the others. Our pack wasn't very large, only about 30 or so, even less cubs. 12 cubs gave their life with my son, leaving me with only about 7 others. But where are they? We never learned about them, and we've learned about every light and dark creature possible. Alpha smiled. I am the last until you, my heir. The remaining cubs aided me in beginning a new era first before death claimed them as well. As I was the original and born of God's blood, I shall live longer than most. I gave my children reign to begin a new life. It was they who plagued the mortals with a new breed. It was their idea of vengeance, bringing forth new blood that would continue to destroy the mortals, never being eradicated as a single bite could be. Infectious. But you call me heir. Because you are. You are a true hybrid, my heir. I created you the same way I created my pack. Like a vampire, I gave you my blood. Like a werewolf, I bit you. Unlike either, I only made you a predator hybrid. My blood is still toxic as I am the original. My cubs do not have the power to make a hybrid. It is why, depending on the method they used, a victim becomes one or the other. But why me? You chose me instead of recreating a new clan. Because I still wanted my heir. You reminded me of my son. Just as determined and proud, just as innocent and loyal. You were determined to avenge those lost to an evil mortal. You were willing to go any length to avenge the death of innocent families, especially yours. It was why I chose you. And it was why I was pointed in your direction. Harry looked away, nibbling once more on his lower lip, and you knew I was a wielder. You knew I was here because of her. Scott winced, lightly rubbing his left temple. His head ached and eyes watered slightly, causing him to blink rapidly in order to clear his vision. He barely contained a flinch when Jean leaned in close. "You all right, Scott?" Sighing, he gave a single nod. Waiting for her attention to revert back to the trial, he allowed his eyes to roam over a still nervous Remy. Ever since the thief joined their team, Remy had always been nervous. Especially when his past was revealed, little by little. Despite that, Scott was one of the rare few who didn't care about Remy's past, as well as one of the few who knew exactly what was in Remy's secretive past. Sinister. It always seemed to come back to that mutant doctor. Scott should know, as he was a favored specimen of Sinister. He knew the lengths to which that man, if one could call a cold unfeeling genicist a man, would go to acquire his targets. And this fear hit the spot, and he just knew what this trial was about. "Oh, Remy." Scott returned his attention to Eric the Red, trying to listen over the pounding headache. They had to get the collars off. And this is when he thanked Remy for helping him, not just Storm, to hone his lock-picking skills. As a child, he was willing to admit it. He was a thief as well as a hacker. In his teens, he was more than that. Some could call him a hustler or more, but he did what was needed to survive upon the streets in between the orphanages. It was why he could sympathize with Remy and never pushed too hard, or at least tried only when he thought the younger man was suffering with his low self-esteem. For now though, he slumped in his seat, not needing to pretend he was in pain. He hated these collars, and Sinister knew it. For some reason Genetian collars not only cut off his powers, but they forced them to build up in his head, causing the headaches until he was released. As he slumped, he eased one hand down his left side, surprised to find out he still not only wore his uniform but that his pockets were still intact. Sinister's usually better than this. He hoped there was something in any pocket that could be useful, something he had a feeling Sinister left behind carelessly because the man only desired Remy back in his cold clutches. And of course he wouldn't search. He thinks we won't want Remy after this. Now that we're all here, and why, I shall call up our first witness. Confused, Warren glanced at Rem. Why then behind him at equally confused X-Man and back to Remy before returning his eyes to a smug Eric the Red. What? They watched, stunned, as Betsy practically stumbled from her seat to an empty box seat. She plopped gracelessly into her new spot, eyes staring ahead. She barely twitched, making Scott suspect that Eric was controlling the collars and the wearer's actions. "I need to get us free." His fingers twitched as they found the hidden twines of metal partially sewn into the lining of his utility belt. He had to hurry, especially as Betsy began talking. "Tell us, my dear, when you first suspected LeBeau of hiding something." Eric smirked. Sinister wasn't just injecting LeBeau with a sedative to keep him trapped, but also drugging the team as his own little telepath, weaker than the ones employed by the X-Men. Could easily direct the chosen witnesses to talk easily. Betsy locked eyes with Remy before jerking them away, easily allowing the words to flow from her mouth. Besides, she never gave him loyalty. Only the team. We all suspected. He was closed-mouthed, even harder to grasp through telepathy. All we knew of him was his kinetic ability, his background as a master thief, who he was, and where he possibly came from. Anything else had been either learned as we thought he trusted some of us, or forced out when his past came calling. Yes, this I am sure we all know, my dear. I meant what happened to make you suspect as you slid past his mental shields. Remy barely flinched, unlike Betsy, who did. Neither seemed to realize that someone else was privy to what happened when Remy was in a coma and she tried to enter his mind. She flinched again when she caught sight of the disappointed look from Scott and shocked gazes from the others. She dropped her eyes, answering. The professor learned of Remy being in a coma after kissing Rogue when her absorption powers kicked in. The professor anchored me as I slipped past his weakened shields. Who are you? Surprised, she twisted around with one hand forming a psi knife. Gambit. Before her stood a younger but colder version of Gambit. Bow staff flowing and eyes narrowed. Get out. Why am I in these sewers? She finally realized where they were, the Morlock tunnels, but confused on why. Get out. A handful of cards were flung in her direction. She had to dodge in order to avoid the explosions. Out. She refused by striking back with her psi knife. Instead of flesh, she slammed into a wooden door. Her telepathy burned a permanent scorch mark. I will find out. She unleashed her telepathy, driving into every corner of his mind when a roar of anger and pain lashed back. She fell to her knees, hands clutching her head as foreign emotions and thoughts bombarded her and her link to Xavier. Neither could fight back as Remy's shields unceremoniously ejected them. To this day we still can't prove what happened. We suspect that Remy has empathic abilities but we can't prove it. That had been their only theory as she had been hit with emotions. Never has a telepath felt another's feelings unless dealing with an empathy. Nodding, Eric released her. Very well. He turned to the man on trial. Well, Gambit. Seems you're hiding more than your past. An empath, are we? Remy refused to rise to his bait, simply staring as Eric shrugged. We'll get to that but first, Rogue. Like Betsy. Rogue stumbled forward as Betsy hurried to her original seat, unable to go any further. Scott tensed as his collar suddenly clicked open, fearing anyone heard but no one even looked his way. Carefully, he kept the collar around his throat and made it look like it was still closed as everyone's attention was upon Rogue and Eric. Still talking, he silently thanked the gods above that they were allowed their uniform. Even allowing him to keep his goggles over his eyes as the headache flared before easing. He had to keep his eyes closed as he allowed the pressure to vanish. He then turned to Jean, leaning close as if he was holding her or she was holding him because of his pain as he fiddled with her collar. They had to get free. Did you suspect your lover of hiding anything? Eric Kn. EU Rogue would be the clincher as she hadn't been very happy with her lover being married and never telling her, nor was she happy with his constant flirting. Yes, after all, Remy did hide fact he was married to one woman while sleeping with others and still pursuing me. Even kept lying when we learned of his banishment. Still thought he was guilty of something. It wasn't until kiss that sent him into a coma anew. Yes, the infamous kiss. Do explain, my dear. Rogue glared heatedly at Remy. She wasn't as stunned as the others to learn he was hiding something but shocked that Sai had actually gotten past his shields to find some clues. To find out he was possibly an empath meant he was always lying. He had to have been playing with her feelings. After he kissed me and collapsed, memories began playing. They confused me but it was as if he was in charge when I made decision of a road trip. Bobby followed, concerned. Over next few days I kept recalling screams and bloodshed. Something told me it all started in one city. That's when I found myself in Seattle, standing among a destroyed theater. Remy found us there. We began arguing. I demanded to know why she was so special about this theater and why I kept seeing bloodshed in tunnels. He kept begging he couldn't say but that I could kiss him to learn more. He lied before. How was I to know that he wasn't lying now? I told him it was over and to be sure that I would discover truth. Scott sighed. Rogue never forgave Remy for his wife nor the fact Remy shared Logan and Harry's bed in between their breakups. For now, though, he leaned close to Jean's ear, whispering, Jean, get ready but start with releasing the collars. Eric smirked. Don't worry, Rogue. We shall begin uncovering the full truth now. Come forward, LeBeau. He manipulated Remy's collar, knowing the thief was still suffering the last dregs of the sedative. According to Sinister, it took time for the aspirin to full. Why work its way out of the Cajun's system, making him susceptible to a telepath or anyone who could easily get past his shields that couldn't before? What are you doing? Scott was shocked as Remy was forced to stand before Rogue. Eric smirked. Watch, my boy. They all watched, stunned, as Rogue leaned up for a kiss, her collar having already fallen with a snap of Eric's fingers. Remy couldn't move as her powers began draining his energy, memories, and abilities. Mentally, he tried keeping his shields but every second he was failing as the drugs hadn't flushed out completely, especially with her hanging on longer. He knew she had gotten his dark secret, considering it was in the front of his thoughts because of the trial, when she jerked away, anger on her pretty face. What did you find, Rogue? She ignored the joyful tone and smirk, facing a swaying Gambit. Ya jerk. Damn ya ta hell, murderer. She clenched a fist on his shirt, striking out with the other. He hit the floor, -1 shirt and blood trickling past his nose and the corner of his lip. Ya murdered them. Eric chuckled. Tell them, LeBeau. Tell them how you lead the Marauders. Tell them how you gave up the Morlocks. Tell them of your deal with Sinister. One down, LeBeau, or is that two as Rogue put you to the floor? Rogue stood over the fallen thief. How could ya bastard? Ya lied 'bout your wife and now this. Remy flinched. Ain't like dat, Rogie. Remy owed de man for to help wid Remy's powers. Remy didn't know 'bout de massacre. He told different. Liar. Ya led them. Ya led massacre. She wasn't giving this up. But Eric was. He fulfilled his contract. He tried to leave when an optic blast slammed into the wall just before he could escape. Enraged, he allowed his magnetic power to pulse throughout the citadel, forcing it to fall as the metal pieces were literally pulled from their place. He fled as the first chunk separated him from the X-Men. We're done, Sinister. It's collapsing. We need to leave. Scott urged his team to leave, but he swore to make sure Remy was given a better trail than this one. But before he could make sure Remy was escaping with them, Rogue tore off through a smashed window. Seconds before it too crumbled, with Remy in her arms. He knew how she felt and would be damned if anything happened to Remy now. Scott. Jean snatched him with her telekinesis. Just as a large part of the ceiling fell his way. Warren found the Blackbird. He's meeting us outside it. Warren. But that wasn't the mutant that worried Scott. Not when Rogue appeared minutes later. Empty-handed just as the Blackbird was rising into the sky. Where's Remy? Hush, my pet. In your loss, you shall gain. It is time. Spread fear and betrayal. Shadows must converge. I sleep unti. A child of our blood and power is born. Then we shall celebrate. Until then, those born with a purpose, a need, shall tap into me and mine. Gia turned away, unhappy with the decision her sister made, even now, but she was curious. What chosen? We've given mortals the ability of magic. My chosen. My child of magic. My wielder of chaos. Mine. Wielder. Aris grinned. Oh, yes. One with the ability to affect things no other can. In a way my child can use natural magic to heal, to recharge, and to strengthen. They will be powerful mortals, usually in a time of need. They will be the ones of chaos and balance. You're using an innocent again. Not use, aid, my dear sister. They shall continue what I cannot. In the time of shadows, one child shall become quiet the tipper. Oh, such beauty. I shall miss seeing in the balance being shifted. Gia nibbled on her lips. Will this child be the one whose family you cursed? Betrayal, death, sacrifice, power. His line ends with a babe in arms. Alone, unwanted, so innocent but weeps with knowledge inside. Tiny, fragile, my little emerald boy, my pet's heir. Harry stared. She really was the reason. Aris always knew the path she wanted. She chose the best solutions. She sacrifices much to gain that choice. She set up my parents. If not for her I would have had a family. Alpha held his cub. I am sorry. We've both lost our pack too. Mother, but she gave me a reason to find another. I lost my son but gained you. I lost my pack but kept my cubs. Harry glanced down. All I have are Logan and Remus. Your pack and mate. Alpha smiled, hearing of his heir's family. You found them. They can never replace your true family, but they can reduce the pain. Then why am I affected by my thief and Sabretooth? He understood. As an alpha of his clan, he could have more than one lover, even mate if he chose. Much like the pride of lions found among the mortals' world. Like most mates, a submissive attracted a dominate, but the dominate had to prove his worth and ability to protect its chosen. Did you battle? Twice with Logan. He won both times. Remy simply needed us. We kept him despite his constant need to pursue Rogue. Warren's simply mine. Alpha chuckled. This Warren had a protector, a deadly one, which meant the man had been injured doing something that had the hybrid determined to protect him. Possibly a territorial Ba, TTLE, or trying to protect his own family. Harry's next words brought back his attention, but Sabretooth is different. Remus was always with me. It felt almost the same, but the blonde cat cheated. Alpha understood. He had done something like that once before. Like his heir, he had chosen a mate and won his battle for the fiery. Alpha used that knowledge, sneaking into Jason's little room as the boys slept. Drugged beneath the heavy scents, he had seduced the boy in his own bed. What do I do? The whisper brought back his attention, shaking his head to get rid of the beautiful picture Jason made during that night. I can't tell you, my heir. I had 2 mates myself. I won and mated Annie. But my second fought me constantly after I tricked him into mating with me. Harry shivered. He submitted to 2 ferals. Though he constantly fought with the one. With the knowledge of his sire having 2 mates, he understood that he had unfinished business with Sabretooth. Logan won't like it. Going home. Harry nodded. We were the first. We were the ones who fought back. We were the ones who saw the magic world begin. We know every secret they bore. You've seen them. You know what pedestal keeps your old world alive and thriving. Quote, you own the magical world since all the gods are gone. Eris made you and us. She manipulated it all. Before she passed on, we created this box to hold the secrets. She knew it would go to the child she prophesied. A charm made sure only my heir could open it. The headmasters in charge of the same school we helped build kept it safe, even though the corrupted knew there was a secret hidden in its halls. Weren't you ever afraid that the headmaster could expose it? No, Eris made sure of that. It was why a phoenix could be found in the office. As them who chose the headmaster with their ability to see past the surface. She kept it safe. A secret that holds the truth would be the biggest catch of them all. It would prove that the ministry wasn't in charge as they thought. That only one person really had the ability to rule the magical world. Though we are quite amused by the one person you put in charge. Harry shrugged. Draco was the best choice at the moment. Then he suddenly wrapped arms around his sire. Thank you. Good luck, my heir. And I'm sure your blonde scion is ruling ruthlessly. Harry smiled brightly just as his body was pulled from the box back to the groove. It felt as if he only fell asleep for a couple hours. Sighing, he peered down at the dark liquid before returning the lid, watching it reseal itself before bursting into flames. It's only right. Probably will return back to Hogwarts to await another. Before he could ponder more, familiar scents filtered his way, faint but recognizable. Sabretooth. He burst to his feet, determined to beat his opponent and end the charade of having the large blonde as a potential mate. Hello, kitten. I see you're in top shape. Sabretooth grinned widely, flashing his fangs. He barreled into the soft body, forcing them to tumble further into the woods before a wave of so-called telekinesis forced him off the bucking body. Oh, kitten. Like Logan, he knew this boy wouldn't go down without a fight. It would be difficult to keep in close range as the boy's abilities could force him back easily, but he was determined to taste that flesh once more. He quickly twisted towards the boy, feinting to the left before swerving in a different direction. He was mildly surprised that the boy didn't put up a shield as his claws easily slid through soft skin, stepping back to lick at the salty blood. Still as sweet. Can't wait fair th. Rest. Harry flung out a hand, tossing another pulse of magical lightning. Then he raced deeper through the trees, hoping to make it harder for other feral. He scaled a tree swiftly, peering through the foliage. Playtime over. Come out, kitten. I know here. Can smell ya. Sabretooth inhaled deeply as he followed the scent to a small section of trees to the left of a groove that smelled much like Logan. Where did ya go? He got his answer by the rustle of leaves and a diving hybrid. He ignored the claws as he tried getting a good grip, being blasted with powerful waves of magic. Sheik snarled, lashing out, uncaring as the blonde feral smirked, enjoying the deadly dance. Sheik was determined to win. On the OT, her side of the woods awaited several worried figures. They refused to get any closer to the woods. What do we tell Logan if Sabretooth wins? A triumphant howl suddenly echoed through the trees. Remus blinked. Hopefully it'll be Harry that tells him. I'd rather not be involved. But why is Harry fighting Sabretooth? He hasn't fought like that when Logan claimed him. All but Severus stared wide-eyed towards the woods. Potter never was normal. What did you say? Don't play stupid, Lupin. You know full well that boy has the infuriating luck of having trouble following him, even with his dumb luck. Remus weakly glared at the pale wizard but couldn't argue with that logic. Harry did have the strangest, sometimes spontaneous, ways of surviving or finding himself in dangerous positions. Then again, things never seemed normal around Harry, as if fate was enjoying the chaos he caused. If anything does happen, it might be best to explain to Logan from a safe distance. A voice, curious and wary in tone, spoke up from behind. Explain what? Even Charles had been shocked to find Storm and her small team coming up to them, disheveled as if they had been in battle. Oh my. Storm smiled tiredly. We're well, Professor. Bastion captured us. She hurried on at the concerned looks, but not the children. They escaped. Good. And you all really are well. Yes, sir. We were imprisoned when I realized Harry wasn't with us. That gave us a way out as Wolverine went berserk looking for his mate. We did have a little trouble getting him home, but he was able to calm long enough for me to mention he could still be here. Possibly hiding and afraid. A roar cut her off from saying more when an enraged Wolverine stormed by, eyes flashing dangerously and claws rapidly sliding in and out of his hands as he tore into the woods. Oh my, I do hope Harry's fine. Storm-eyed Hank, questioning Charles. Sir, Creed is here. He and Harry dashed into the woods, battling. We haven't been able to determine who's still breathing or if they are still fighting. All eyes returned to the woods, fearing the outcome. Especially as Logan went running inside, knowing how he felt about Sabretooth. Don't. Y'all lied to me. Y'all lied to us all. Please, Rogue. No. I won't hear it. Y'all just lie again. Y'all like hurtin' ones y'all love most. Always gamblin' with hearts. But now y'all can pay for all that. With those words she tore off into the sky, leaving him behind. Calling out to her, she ignored him, ignored the pain in her heart, and ignored the hot tears threatening to fall. No, I won't cry. Not over him. She couldn't believe how stupid she had been, how naive she had been to fall for his charms. Now he would never betray another innocent again. He would suffer for his crimes. Never able to neither seduce his way into another's life, nor even lie about himself to gain trust and dependency. Satisfied with her ability to finally push him out of her life, giving him the punishment he deserved. Rogue rocketed towards the last known location of the Citadel, spying the tiniest spot of black, the Blackbird. Scott growled as she refused to answer. Jean, find him. I can't. You know that. Angry, Scott grabbed a hold of a silent Rogue's hair, yanking it back to see her eyes. As your team leader, I demand you tell me where Remy is, Rogue. She glared back, using a fraction of her strength to pull away. Quickly flitting to the other side of the jet. No. He deserves to suffer. Warren blinked, slowly coming from his shocked stupor, dazed still by the confessions from the trial. He was finally seeing around him, wide-eyed as he watched Scott manhandle the untouchable and super-strong Rogue, demanding Remy's location. What? His whisper met nothing but air. From it he pulled out Remy's uniform and a spare duster, included with the infamous cards and a bow staff, one he placed in the compartment himself. As a leader, he made sure everyone had whatever weapon they needed in case it was ever lost. Scott, what are you doing? Jean could not believe her eyes as her lover began filling a small brown bag full of supplies from their emergency stock. Put the jet down, Jean. She had been flying it while he had dealt with Rogue. What? Why? Jean didn't wait for him to answer, immediately putting the jet on autopilot to face him, hands on her hips. No. She was determined to keep Scott safe. You can't go out there. Scott stood up, shrugging the pack onto his back. Yes, now drop it. I won't let him suffer out there. He's a murderer, Scott. He deserves to suffer. Now, he would willingly suffer his punishment from Harry, knowing the younger man would learn of his betrayal against Remy. For now, Scott needed to know he wasn't alone in his campaign. I won't let him die out there. He isn't a fault. Scott, haven't you been listening? He helped the Marauders to massacre the Morlocks. He was part of Sinister's team. How can you still trust him after all the lies he told? Goggles flashed for a second, giving a clear indication he wasn't too happy with Jean, as Scott's mouth tightened with a frown, stance rigid against her, easily. I still trust him despite his past. Rogue finally exploded, floating forward every inch with her angry words. Why? He killed him. He never told us. He lied about his past every day. He lied to me. Scott remained calm in her anger. Tired of her poor me attitude. She had not changed since joining the team after her stint with the enemy, a different enemy but still an enemy, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Led by one dangerous female mutant, a shapeshifter called Mystique, who turned out to be her mother or at least her adopted mother. He never lied, Rogue. We assumed, just as you assumed He wasn't married as he never wore a ring. Neither he nor Belladonna stayed true to their vows after his banishment nor before. He sighed heavily, unsure why he was sharing what little he learned about Remy through the years. The boy needed someone to talk to that wouldn't judge him, and it turned out usually Hank, Logan, or Scott as his ears and a shoulder to cry on. After all, no one ever asked him, so he felt he didn't need to tell. Quote, Rogue huffed, arms crossed, ready to spew more when Jean interrupted. Scott, please. She grasped his arms, not just physically but with her telekinesis as well. Please. He betrayed us. He was with Sinister. Probably still is. He's a thief. He steals from anyone and sells them to the highest bidder. Creed's already confessed several times that he's used Remy for such things. He could have already told Sinister all about our security. He's updated it and Sinister still gets through. Phoenix. And making everyone think it truly was her before allowing her freedom from her cocoon beneath the sea upon its death. Scott ignored her cry. It didn't matter if it wasn't her or not. They all had something they feared. We all had something we feared, even I won't leave Remy to suffer for his past. Whoosh. All eyes turned to find that Warren had opened the door to the jet. He turned to face a confused Scott. Coming. I think Betsy can handle the jet. He held out a hand to his oldest friend. We must go now. Rogue left him with little clothing and it's snowing pretty. Well, Scott. Jean twisted to her feet, trying to reach for her lover when someone beat her to it. Betsy had been ready, waiting quietly as she charged her side daggers. As both women turned to stop the two men from going after Remy, she struck. She dove into Jean, forcing her to stumble into Rogue, shocking both women enough that they stumbled, and distracting them momentarily. Within seconds of her attack, Betsy slammed both side daggers into her teammates' heads, knocking them cleanly unconscious before either could fight back. Gentlemen. She turned back to the others. Shall we go? In the air. Scott leaned in close, clutching Warren tightly, marveling at how his friend could handle his weight. See anything? Warren shook his head as they continued peering through the flurries. Scott was a bit heavy to carry in his arms, but he didn't think he could control flying if he carried the man on his back. They had flown in the same direction the Blackbird took off from, not knowing. Let's try this way. Scott thought it was the right direction, going west. He had to yell over the roar of the winds. I hope she didn't go too far. Remy won't survive long. Warren nodded as he gathered his friend close, following orders. Both were silent for a few minutes, trying to see anything that could give away Remy's location when something caught Scott's eyes. Warren. His friend leaned his head close, ear placed near his mouth. Over there. Scott pointed to the direction of where he saw a second flash of magenta pink. It has to be Remy. Please let it be him. That flash had to be either Remy trying to make a fire with his own clothing or hoping it would signal anyone to his location. We're coming. Remy. Remy, on the other hand, shivered rapidly. He was so cold but hoped Rogue was coming back. She had left him near one of the many snow and ice dunes. He stayed, hoping. Please. He didn't really care who came as long as he could get warm. A small whimper tore free as cold fingers grasped his last boot. He trembled harder as the snow soaked that sock as well. He tried to ignore the oncoming warmth, settling inside his freezing body. He pushed what energy he could into the book and weakly threw it as high in the air as his strength would let him. He didn't have much as it exploded, allowing shards of the remainders to fall back on him, cowering from the weak explosion. Remy. Not real. He had been in the same spot for quite some time, no watch to tell, but hoping he would be found. He wondered how long it would have to be for one to believe they were hearing what they wanted to hear or see. Remy. So familiar and so close, but he was too tired. Weak, cold, hurting. His hope was dwindling. Oh, Remy. Scott held the thief close, trying to warm chilled skin with his own body as Warren began unpacking the bag. Help me, Warren. He needs to get warm. They rushed to dress the freezing thief, trembling themselves in almost sub-zero winds. We need to find shelter. Warren frowned, looking back the way they came, the citadel. It might have some warmth among the rubble. Scott eyed the drowsy Cajun, curling close like a frightened kitten. You can't carry us both. Even then only one at a time. The winds won't allow a good flight. You might get lost either way. Warren nodded, easing closer on the other side of Remy. What about Betsy? The blackbird should already be halfway home, if not there already. We'll need to hold on that long or find a cave. Warren nodded, wrapping arms around a shaking Remy, leaning close in hopes of their warmth to keep them safe. Hurry, Betsy. Almost there, Warren. He blinked, forgetting that his lover was a telepath in that moment. They didn't have the link Scott and Jean shared, but they were close enough that Betsy always kept a mental eye upon him. He can't hold on much longer. He practically stripped to make charge beacons. Just hold on a little longer. I'm touching down outside. I'm bringing Hank on the return trip. She cut off their link after relaying that last message. Thank God. Shish. He never had been so happy to see the mansion nor the other team outside. Storm blinked at the sight of the blackbird touching down just a short few feet from them. She watched, concerned as Rogue and Jean were dragged, unconscious, from the jet. By the goddess. What happened? Then she noticed someone missing. Where's Remy? Betsy hurried to interrupt as Rogue and Jean groaned from their spot on the ground. Knowing they were waking finally. He'll be dead, along with Scott and Warren, if we don't hurry back. Why? What happened? Later. Storm. I need to head back. She hurried to board, calling over her shoulder, Hank. I need you along on this trip. She didn't bother to see who else was coming along. Warren's urging that they hurry worried her. They couldn't find shelter nor could they stand the cold much longer. She could only hope they would be safe and alive. We need to go, now. Wolverine roared at the scent of his mate being tainted with another feral. He raced faster at the mewling cries. Those were his. He knew every inch of that golden fur. Knew the taste of that slick tongue, those soft lips, and that hot mouth. Knew how soft that fur was as well as how frisky his mate's tail became, rubbing and wrapping around his legs or waist. He snarled with each cry. His mate belonged to him and him alone. He refused to share. Then again he had with Gambit, but the Wolverine thought Gambit is his as well. Just unwilling to allow Sabretooth a taste, rather see the mutant dead before he was forced to share. Mine. He froze just after he broke into the groove. His rival was kneeling, hunched over, smirking and covered in splatters of blood. Rapid healing hid any injuries and the bulky form almost hid the motionless form lying behind him. Hey, Runt, get away. Sabretooth laughed, reaching behind him to stroke a soft leg. His kitten purred unconsciously but didn't move. Tasted just as good as before. He loved riling his old rival. Nothing was more fun than Bat. Ling an enraged Wolverine, but he wouldn't really last as long this time, not after having his kitten. That had been pure luck on his side to gain the advantage, eagerly using their healing to his desire. His healing may have cured his wounds but not his exhaustion. Wolverine snarled and dove forward. His beast smelt weakness, determined to exploit it for a win. His rival braced for impact before they flew over a prone body. Growls and snarls filled the air as claws ripped and tore into vulnerable skin. They circled in predator movement, looking for an opening, a weakness to exploit further. Either paying any attention to the stirring for almost 2 feet away, softly moaning. Harry whimpered as he felt overly used muscles protest. He stirred to sounds of a fight, to the urge of his beast. Up, our mate. Emerald eyes blinked open to see 2 ferals slashing each other. No. He struggled to his feet, uncaring to the ripped rags hanging loosely upon his body. He had to stop them. No. But ferals felt themselves being jerked apart and held immobile. Harry stumbled into their view with arms spread, facing them. Kitten. Harry. No. You listen. He panted heavily, eyes flashing. Stop. Whatever was used to hold them had dropped. Wolverine quickly moved to his mate, growling lowly at the scent of Sabretooth marking his territory. I will kill ya. Sabretooth chuckled in between heaving breaths. Bring it, Runt. Kitten's mine now. No. Harry struggled to regain his strength, glancing at a dented tree and shattered branches that caused his downfall. Cheated. Sabretooth snickered as he looked too. Nah, kitten. Just used my chance. He licked his claws leisurely, still so sweet, boy. Just like Cajun. Wolverine tried to attack him but Harry held him back. He smirked, but accepted the chance to escape until his next need to taste sweet innocence. Be seein' ya real soon, kitten. Doc too. Bet he ain't happy. Smelt friends returnin'. Ain't got ya nor gumbo. Over my dead body, Creed. Ain't ever gonna touch my mate again. Sabretooth laughed. Sure, runt. Until next time. He sauntered away, feeling his kitten's heated gaze at his back. He hadn't cheated and the boy knew it. Just used the advantage once it was available. Harry nibbled on his lower lip, feeling the vibrations of Logan's growl against his hand on a heaving chest. He still felt conflicted. A part of him couldn't allow Logan to murder Sabretooth. Another part hoped Logan would be the ultimate winner and avenge his mate. Harry. He looked back at the broken tree. He wasn't sure what happened, but the branch had cracked, startling him and causing him to fall. Before his magic came into play, Sabretooth's body slammed him into the tree trunk moments before several branches were used to keep him stunned and unable to use his magic. Harry. Sabretooth then pulled him from the splinters and broken branches. Claws had further ripped his clothing as the dull pain of teeth tore into his skin, and a forcible thrust had burned through resisting muscle. At first it had hurt and he wanted to fight, but his body refused to listen to his mind, enjoying the burning pain turning to pleasure. Ow, I know why Iris enjoyed a little pain with her pleasure. Harry. Logan and Harry's scene coming up. Skip here if desire. Logan growled loudly, trying to get his mate's attention. Nothing. Until he shook the stunned hybrid. Emerald eyes turned in confusion to face him. His beast snarled with rage and need, the need to reclaim what was his and the rage to wash away that scent of a rival. Mine. Harry gave a yelp as he hit the ground for the second time, falling from Logan's harsh shove. Wah! A demanding tongue mapped his mouth, twisting to cleanse the taste of Sabretooth. Rough hands ripped away the last of his rags. He whimpered in his throat as he was manhandled. Next thing he knew, naked skin touched naked skin. He mewled and arched back into a hard chest. He trembled as blunt teeth bit down on his neck, right between the golden throat and shoulder as had Sabretooth. Logan kept that grip tight as he forced. Harry maneuvered to his hands and knees, fingers in his thick finge. RS gripped his hips with enough strength to bruise. Without warning, his mate pulled back and viciously slammed forward inside a tight, griping passage. Harry mewled in pleasure. He screamed. He begged. He sobbed. Sometimes in pain, sometimes in pleasure, sometimes both. He arched into and accepted every brutal stroke into his body, knowing his mate was reclaiming his body, remarking marked and scented territory. Heavy grunts bore in his ear as Logan leaned close. Mine. An agreeing whine answered. Logan licked roughly at the back of Harry's neck. Mine. He felt a rumbling roar easing its way to release as muscles tightened around him and his hips snapped faster. He hissed and snarled in his mate's ear, commanding the body beneath him to ecstasy. Now. He latched back onto the delectable skin, biting down harshly, enjoying the taste of the warm blood over his tongue as his mate's body locked in place, a scream of pleasurable pain ripping free. He shoved into the accepting body 3 more times before roaring to his own completion. They collapsed upon the ground, neither moving. Scene done. Can continue reading now. Moments later, a quiet forest overlooked 2 heavily breathing forms still entwined as one. They lay panting in the afterglow in pleasure. Before Harry moaned as he shifted, trying to remove the heavy body above him. Ain't done yet, darlin'. Logan pressed a soft kiss to the bleeding shoulder. But we need ta check on Remy. Ain't likin'. Creed's words. Harry barely nodded as he pulled energy from Mother, boosting his magic just enough to allow some clothing to re-stitch together in semblance of cover. His head was titled to the side, distracted by her voice. Pain. Suffering. Our pack weakens. Harry shivered at her concerned tone. Remy. He raced off to discover the truth of what happened. He and Logan broke free of the tree line in time to see 2 familiar males stumbling down the ramp with a third curled in their arms. Remy. Remy flinched in the arms that held him. Fear pounding through him. He peered through scruffy bangs, searching for the one that called to him, sighing in relief as a concerned Harry was hurrying his way. Allo, petite. He really did try to smile to ease Harry's worry. Harry immediately looked Remy over, frowning at the pale skin and almost lifeless eyes. He curled against the Cajun only to yelp at the still chilly skin. Remy. Fine, petite. No, you aren't. He glanced at Scott and Warren. What happened? Rogue interrupted before anyone else could answer. He's a traitor. He betrayed us, ta sinister. A murderer. He deserved to die. Harry growled lowly, wanting to tear her apart but not wanting to leave Remy. You better start explaining. Now, chapter to this story, and the last story for now, at Lee. Saint until I hear back from my beta and until I can finish these other stories I have going. Chapter 21. Rogue stood her ground as an enraged Harry held Remy tightly in order to not do something he might regret. I said to start explaining. Warren swallowed, thinking this could be the perfect time to understand his own emotions and to confess what he had done. We were captured after completing our mission. At first we were chained inside a cave until someone called Eric the Red released us. He led us to a room set up as a mock courtroom. I was supposedly used to defend Remy, who was on trial. But never got that chance as Eric the Red was in complete control the entire time. We learned that Remy had once worked with Sinister and led a team of killers into the tunnels beneath the city. There was a race of mutants hiding there called the Morlocks. Remy's team murdered almost the entire race, only a few were able to flee to safety. After learning that Remy led the team, ones that cost me my wings when we went to save the Morlocks, he paused, eyes closed, I had fled, torn with the knowledge, leaving Remy behind at the trial. I wanted to blame him but somehow I couldn't. Harry closed his eyes as well, breathing deeply when Scott took up the tale. After Warren fled, Eric the Red dropped the citadel down around us. Rogue took off through a window with Remy in her arms while the rest of us escaped the falling rubble. I had always felt that Remy was scared of his past. I just didn't understand why, though I suspected. Sinister was always a scary subject for most of us. At the trial I understood fully. Sinister got him when he was young, probably when his powers were out of control like Remy once told me. Remy suffered beneath the man's hands until he got the chance to flee. I know Sinister well. He chooses his prey and refuses to let go. I've been a favorite for years as has Jean. Sinister also chooses his victims in one way or another, if they are destined to die. He will find a way to make sure they die, no matter whom is involved. I never asked about Remy's past because the entire team has secrets and a past they are ashamed of. This team was and hopefully still is about second chances. But Rogue had taken a team decision on her own. She flew Remy several miles from the citadel. He hurried on as Harry grew more angry, a murderous look in his eyes as he inched towards Rogue. We didn't know until she came back empty-handed. Warren and I left the Blackbird in Betsy's hands to find him. Where was he? Why did she leave him? She must pay. Avenge our thief. She hurt what was ours. Antarctica. Scott wasn't too sure why he answered, but he suspected it was the need to keep Harry from his rampage, and they believed he deserved death for his past. Scott's eyes widened as he let that slip. Who are they? Warren immediately put in, Jean and Rogue. Harry flexed his fingers, claws itching for blood. Sheik was anxious to punish Scott. T immediately jerked his arms as he tried to leap for the closest woman. No. I can't let you do this. Emerald eyes turned silver, anger echoing from his tensed body as Sheik took over. My pack. SC. Ott silently pleaded with Logan to aid him, sighing in relief as Logan held his mate close. As team leader, I must decide, Harry. I need to know the truth. I need to know if it's really their Daisir. Or if Remy's really an empath and influencing them with his grief. Severus sighed. He hated dealing with incompetent fools, but if Potter got involved then things would really get messy without learning anything. Allow me. He swept forward, pulling a familiar vial from his robes as several X-Men quickly grabbed a still groggy Jean and Rogue, despite Rogue's super strength and their wobbly attempts to fight back. He held their chins as he forced them to swallow several drops of the liquid, and then stepped back. Scott frowned, wanting to stop this still unknown guest when Remus placed a warm hand on the small of his back. Murmuring in his ear, trust him. His body reacted to that husky whisper and warm hand, but he fought for control. He refused to allow his body to jump his second lover until everything was settled. He followed Remus' instructions, asking Rogue first. Her strong conviction came out loud and clear despite the glazed look and monotone. He deserves to suffer, just he made them suffer. He lied to everyone. He did nothing to help the Morlocks, giving them unneeded death instead. We don't need his lying, murdering self here. Harry and Sheik wanted nothing more to And to tear the two women apart, but they left it in the hands of a very furious weather witch and second telepath. After all, both knew how nasty a female could be when angered. Ginny and Hermione had roved that before when they were still his friends, even after the betrayal. Hell hath no fury like a woman's scorn. How right that applies now, chic. We are needed here more than there. Protect Pack. Harry turned to follow Hank, pulling Logan along. He was worried about Remy. According to the story, Remy was in the cold wilderness a lot longer than Scott or Warren. Perhaps later he would find a suitable punishment for Warren's betrayal. After all, Sheik saw that the man went back, standing up to the two angry. Scott followed with Remus at his side, glancing back at the two women. Will they be fine? Severus nodded once. It'll wear off shortly, but they'll be groggy for now since neither received an antidote. Perhaps it's a good thing for you. Remus smiled, tugging the sluggish team leader to his side. It'll be fine, Scott. I promise. Scott smiled tiredly, eyeing the staggering thief. Sinister won't be happy. He'll never give up on Remy. He'll always be around to capture us until we can find a way to get rid of him for good. Remy glanced back, overhearing Remy leave. Grinned, trying to lighten the mood. I will never find another well-trained master thief. Harry nuzzled the slowly warming throat of his thief. My thief. Remy shivered, but not with the cold this time. He was still wanted, still desired. His past with Sinister didn't matter with most of the team, at least not to those who count in his mind. His flings with Rogue or his flirting with every pretty female didn't matter to Harry. He was still wanted in Harry and Logan's bed if the feelings he absorbed meant anything. Was whispered softly. Maybe it was time he stopped running and accepted this chance with a new family. Eager to remain, he allowed Hank to poke and prod, to check his health. He was home. Logan eyed both his mate and their occasional lover. He would fight tooth and claw against Sabretooth to keep his mate as well as Remy. Both were important to him and Wolverine, neither desired to lose either. Especially their mate. But as he watched Remy suffer through the medical exams, he silently swore a promise. He would find a way to put Sabretooth down for good. He refused to allow that feral to have any access to either younger man. Harry and Remy was his. Scott and Remus were silently swearing to find a way to keep their boys safe as well. Scott knew that Sinister wouldn't give up, but he refused to allow that man to ruin any more of his team's life. He was determined to keep Remy among them, just as determined to keep all his team together. Sinister's lair. He was mine. Sinister growled angrily, destroying several delicate instruments as his team of marauders cowered in a corner, not willing to lose their limbs or life if they could help it. He glared at the monitors, reviewing the tapes of the trial. The trial had been successful until that blasted Rogue flew off with Remy deep into the snow. He sent his team to search, but the X-Men beat them to it. They still kept the thief among them. I will have you again, boy. I will have you all at my disposal. I swear I will next time. He thrashed his equipment more, lashing out at anything with his anger and power blasts. Sabretooth's room. Sabretooth lay back, smirking as his sensitive hearing picked up Sinister's anger. Well, kitten, seems we'll still get to play. He couldn't wait for the next round. Perhaps next time, Boss'll bring along Gumbo to play with. He couldn't wait for his next encounter with Wolverine either. Can't wait, boys. He really couldn't. If he could destroy Wolverine, perhaps Kitten and Gumbo would actually be his. For good. Oh, yay, can't wait. He closed his eyes, picturing his kitten in throes of passion and Gumbo arching beneath him, both panting, both bleeding from his claws. He could still faintly taste their richness. Next time.